It was a cold, crisp, clear winter's night when I looked out of my window at home and saw the stars twinkling and the moonlit landscape. Then suddenly I saw a strange star that wasn't there before, and it became larger and larger and larger. And then I could just about make out that it was saucer-shaped. And as this saucer-shaped object became much clearer, I noticed it seemed to be controlled by something intelligent. It then hovered for a while before landing in my garden. I opened my kitchen door and went to investigate, terrified, wondering what it was. Then suddenly a door on this saucer-shaped object opened, and this rather hideous-looking creature got out. It came up to me and said, "Greetings, Earthling. I have travelled 60 billion light years. Could I use your toilet, please? Thank you."
That's a blast from the past. So good evening,
I was going to say, you've done that one.
I've done that one before, and the reason why is because I was going to do Ted's joke, because Ted sent a bloody good joke in for me to read tonight, and I run out of time. So sorry, Ted. It'll be next week, all right, mate? But keep the jokes running, because he's my joke merchant. He often sends some jokes in. So, and there's a few others that do as well. So thanks for the joke.
You should stick with Ted.
I'll stick with Ted. Yes, he's got a Fushi one, which is a good one. It is. So that'll be next week. So next year. It'll be next year, won't it? So good evening, everyone, and we've got some very keen people in chat tonight. We've got at 6:01. We've got. Oh, by the way, I better introduce everybody. Obviously, it's Nathan. You're the 77th Brigade Shield Gatekeeper, etc.
Etc. Yeah.
Excellent. Chris the Gardener. I think you got someone on with Well, I've got the headphones and the tapes recording at the back here, you know. And considering what happened last night, if anybody was watching the show last night on Rumble, something weird happened.
Just a bit.
And I'll go to too
something
deeply,
weirder than you, Chris.
Something weirder than me. Now,
really?
What happened is Patrick innocently mentioned something about April, looking at what has been between the lines, so to speak. I'll be a bit vague, and suddenly the studio went. My computer blacked out, and I found out from Patrick today his computer did exactly the same. It was really weird, and I couldn't get back in the studio. I tried everything, and similar happened
Chris.
When Dennis Wise came on, the chap that did The Greatest Story Never Told. So interesting, isn't it? So I'm thinking, yes, they must know something. So, boys and girls, April is something. So there we are. So Aunt Sally's the first. She was in 1 minute past 6. I'm going to be late tonight. Ooh, note from parents. A spank. I think she needs a good spanking for this. See me outside Miles's shop next Wednesday. Okay, right? Okay.
You know what? I've got that on a very small like photo, and from here it looks like I'm going to be late tonight. I'm visiting my grand chicken. Oh, so it's just the way it looks.
My grandchildren.
Grand chicken.
Yeah, grand chicken.
On. You're not old enough to have grandchildren, surely.
Or grand chicken.
Yeah, says
grand
me
chicken.
being.
Is there a grand chicken?
I don't know.
There
Could
is
be
now,
Nathan.
Chicken.
So, Aunt Sally, well, you could pick a politician of your choice to blow a raspberry at, but as you're not there, you'll have to go to Paul Green, who's 4 minutes past 7. He says, "I hope everyone is well.
Evening,
Looking
Paul.
forward to the show." Evening, Paul. Then we've got Paul Mohammed.
Paul again. Like the dog.
Good,
Paul.
good. Another one.
Wait a minute, Chris. Don't let. What kind of dog is that, Paul? Let us know in the chat what kind of dog that is.
Looks like a husky.
Let us know. That one looks like a husky. Yeah, I'm intrigued as to know.
Oh, that's a
the
Labrador, I think. Or is it a Is it a
Do you
Labrador?
think? I don't
No,
know. Not with
no. Hang
ears
on,
like that,
hang on.
Chris.
No, it's I don't know.
It's like
Come on, Paul.
like
Let
a
us know. Let us know what your dog is. I'm a sucker for a dog.
yeah.
Here we go, and then we got here. I'd actually reword that, Chris. I'm a sucker for a dog. I would actually reword that one, Chris, if I was you, because but upset,
It's your mind, Chris, that takes things in this direction, mate. It's nothing other than your absolutely corrupted and perverse mind.
And it really is.
I'm a sucker for a dog, mate. There's nothing wrong with that statement. Not unless you've got some kind of twisted way of thinking.
Well, Miss Easily Offended from Stratton might be on. Oh, that's disgusting. Hello.
Is that our puppy friend?
Sorry, mate.
The puppy friend, Easily Offended.
Yes.
Just to give a little bit of context, we kind of insinuated that we should maybe eat a dog for Christmas, and somebody took it very wrong.
Oh yeah.
We had to go you first, and then me, and then they said they were disappointed at me, and I'm thinking, oh, and that's not a funny joke. I'm thinking, oh shit, wow.
That was
and I'm very sick. Yeah.
That was
on Telegram, because I cracked the joke on Telegram.
I remember you talking about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got reprimanded, the pair of us. We were
Well, there you go.
Dog's not just
laugh, can you?
The old Chinese saying, a dog is not just for Christmas. We care that there can be some left over for the sandwiches in the new year.
Absolutely.
You're not, yes. And hello, Merry Crisis, everyone. Yes, we want to have a Merry Crisis.
Stephen.
Yes. And don't know who this geezer is. Bloody hell, you lot are eager. We've got Sue Sparkle. Hello, everyone. Hello, Sue. Here we go. And then we got Paul. Who the bloody hell's he?
There's a lot of Pauls.
Good evening, Paul.
Yes. Pauls and Chris's.
Pauls. Here we go. And then we got
hello, Mark.
Good evening, all.
Hello.
And Paul. And then we've got Paul again. It says, it was Keir Starmer getting out of his car. Ooh, what, eh? See?
Can you get back in it and sod off?
Yes. Well, I heard you, as I said last night, you heard about the very sad news about Esther Ranson. She decided not to go and pop her clogs in Switzerland after all. So I was suggesting that we should all have a whip round and she could take Keir Starmer with her. And in fact, why not take the entire WEF with her and one big miserable, unhappy family and take them to Switzerland?
They'll just replace them, though, Chris, with some other useful idiot. This is a sad reality that we're in, mate. It doesn't really... people I see there's a petition to get rid of Mr. Starmer. I think it's got about 3 million plus signatures or whatever now. It ain't going anywhere, and it doesn't matter even if he does go, mate. We're just going to be presented with another useful idiot who will do exactly what they want them to do, mate. The best, like we're getting away from anything that we depend on that comes from them is the best way to deal with it, mate.
I 100% agree with you.
And ignore them. Just ignore the bastards, and then hope they go away. They might do if we all ignore them, mate.
Well,
I can't agree with that, but
Nathan, then interject and tell us why, mate. There's nothing wrong with a healthy debate, my friend.
I'm of the opinion that without action, nothing gets solved, and I'm not sat here thinking that I've got the solutions to any of this, but I think it starts with people. That they've got to get properly educated, and they've got to absolutely get their heads around morality. Because as Mark Passio always says, morality equals freedom, right? And so we're not free at the minute, which means society's degraded to such a point where it doesn't even have a clue what morality is. Never mind applies it. So I think that's the solution, because the more moral people become, the more that's going to spread, the more there's going to be an understanding of what's acceptable and what's not, what's right and what's wrong. And as soon as we get a grip on that societally, then guess what? These bastards have got a problem, haven't they? Because they've got to then justify their actions, So that's
I'm not suggesting we sit on our asses and do nothing. I mean, like you, I believe, mate, in building local communities, getting on with your neighbours, helping the people around you. Doing what you can for others, giving when you can. I'm down with all that, mate. I totally agree that is the way forward. Is building relationships with people that are in your vicinity, coming together, helping each other in times of need and crisis, mate. And yeah, trying to educate people where you can. I don't know about you, mate, but when my path changed and I started seeing things differently, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops, tell the world and tell everybody, but I was really clumsy about it, mate. And it turns people off.
Big time. If you want to wake people up, that's the last way. I mean, I think we've all done that.
We've all
it doesn't work.
Mate. And you get suckered into things, mate. I mean, I don't know what your opinions are. I probably shouldn't say their names, but a couple of gentlemen who've been on the circuit for a long time. Me and Chris have spoken about one of them before. I think Chris retains some kind of respect or whatever for one of them. Anyway, the point is, mate, they talk about all kinds of fanciful things, but there's never been anything that they've talked about that they've presented a shred of evidence to back up.
Come on! I want names now. Can we name them
when we're off air, mate? I'll
please, because I'm curious now.
But
they've probably got good lawyers.
They talk about all kinds of fanciful experiences where they've been taken into space to attend conferences.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Where they've been used as oh Christ, I forget the word, but basically they've been used to see if any of these other species are not being truthful. Intuition, basically, they were there as to provide the intuition.
Shape-shifting.
All kinds of different alien species that were at these conferences, but never a shred of any kind of anything to back it. And we all get taken down these rabbit holes. These, when you get into it, your brain's like a sponge. You want to absorb, don't you? As much as
absolutely.
You can. And you want to tell the world. Nowadays, I'm a lot more subtle, mate, in the way I deal with people. I don't tend to talk about things. I tend to ask them questions and get them to think about things more. I find that's a better way of trying to inform or share information with people, is by getting them to question things.
Well, you've got to kind of get a read on them as well. I mean, I was talking to a lady in a bookshop the other day. I don't know how the conversation came about, but she just started talking about her son. I said, well, what's he into? She said, I don't know what to buy him. And I was stood at the occult section. I said, you stood here, so clearly he's got an interest in the occult. And she said, no, it's paganism. I went, all right, okay. But suddenly we went from that to communism, and then to complaining about the state of the world. And I'm thinking, oh, this is looking positive. And then she told me she was a trainee nurse, right? And so that's the point at which my brain went, don't bother. And then, of course, she came out with it. She came out with and I just said, look, I'll be honest with you. I said, as far as I'm concerned, it's the rebranding of the flu. And that's, I'll leave it at that because I don't want to get you kicked off. But, as soon as you get that, if you can gauge a reaction from that, and if they're adamant, you'll tell them. It's a waste of time trying to get them at that point, because I'm not going to stand there with somebody in a bookshop and try and convince them that
some people you're just never going to budge, mate. And the thing is as well, it's like all of us. I mean, I was always a bit different as a kid. I've always been a bit, well, you'd never really sort of done things the way everyone else did. But my real awakening, if you want to call it that, really started when I started getting onto the internet, which I didn't start doing until 2010. I mean, I had a Facebook in 2008, but I barely used it. It was set up by my brother. I didn't really get into the internet until about 2010. And then you discover, don't you? I mean, back then, especially on YouTube, mate, there was a lot of information. And if you've got an open mind, you do start looking at things differently, don't you? And that, and you start looking at different things, and we all do that. And you, like I say, you get quite easily taken in by people, because
absolutely,
if you're looking for an answer to something, sometimes you'll take any answer that's there, because you're vulnerable, if you like, to you've got to be, it's only once you start really looking at things, you pick out the wheat from the chaff, don't you? And you think, well, that person, I mean, I know that during the nonsense, that was a big benchmark for me, because there were people that I'd listened to up until then, and then they some fell for it hook, line and sinker, mate.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I can't now. As far as you're concerned, I'm done.
I would agree with you absolutely on that one. I think this is part of the pitfall that we all fall into. And I'm going to use a word very vaguely here to apply to us all, which is basically truth seekers, which a lot of people think they are, but they're not.
You mean.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the things that got me into all of this was the whole ancient aliens thing, right? That was one of my opening interests. So I went into this. I found out about the whole conspiracy stuff that was going on completely by accident, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And then of course that took over, and I'm thinking, oh, this is bad. It's kind of because you can see what's going on in the world, and you think, well, that doesn't make sense. But what I'm saying is, a lot of the information out there leads you into 1,001 rabbit holes, and you've got to kind of go there to figure it out for yourself before you can realize what's, as you said, the wheat from the chaff, right? You can't just suddenly say, that's bollocks because I'm clever and I know that. No, you've got to go down in certain directions and figure it out. But
I think you're right.
In terms of people exposing themselves at the beginning of that particular period, there was a lot of people I unsubscribed to at that point. And some of them, they were blatantly contradicting themselves. One minute they were saying that we've won and it's all over, and we've won the spiritual battle and it's all about to go in our favor. The very next day, this particular individual came out with a podcast. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're fucked," and he meant it. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. You're so spiritual. You're so in touch with all these other realities, but you're flip flopping. You don't know where you stand, and you're advising all these people listening to you what they should and shouldn't be doing.
We're never fucked, mate. We're never fucked in terms of like what I believe this reality is, that it's some kind of simulation or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are ramifications and repercussions for what happens, but you're never fucked. That's the beauty of this, I think, is that it is a never-ending process, a process of some kind of self-improvement and education, if you like. That's what you come here for, to learn things, to learn how to deal with traumatic things, and that's the whole reason. I think we all chose to come at this time as well, mate.
And also the government, by being tough on us, is toughening us up. Because you look at it,
isn't it?
Well, you look at it. 101st Airborne Division were a crack lot. They, during World War II, they were given the toughest of the tough projects. Well, they were all often surrounded by the enemy, but they got good because they had it tough. And it's a bit like I worked at a place where they'd only have contract people. They didn't want anybody that had been permanently employed. They want contract blokes because you've been around. That was it. But very, very quickly, my prediction for next year is Keir Sadist, as I call him, Keir Sadist, said it will be here this time next year because he's a ruthless bastard, and they're not going to knock him off his perch.
I think we've got 10 years of him, mate. Hello.
We've got Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Paul.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Chris, Nathan, and Chris.
And
hi.
You sound a lot better. By the way, what happened last night? We didn't come over on what's it radio? Soapbox Radio.
I've no idea. I was asleep.
That was.
Oh, you missed a treat with that one.
although I am improved, I'm also still slightly wiped out at the same time. So.
Oh dear. Well, the thing is that what happened last night at the end of the show. We're going to go on to that because it's all right. Barefoot Follower, I'm going to come back to your question. Paul said, "Did I close the show off? Okay. Sorry,
yes.
mate, I didn't get back to you today because I was absolutely up to be necking it today. I'm very sorry I didn't get back to you. You and Patrick really held it well because what was happening when I was speaking, I was about 30 seconds out of sync. So you're talking and midway through conversation, I'm going, but that was really weird last night.
Can I just interject here in terms of Paul's comment? I think they did it very professionally. Actually, I think they did it very well. They closed it nice and they squared it off. It was a very good job, mate. So yeah, absolutely. I think the stream was still running though.
Well, that's the trouble. And I had umpteen, and the similar things happened when Dennis Wise was on. Isn't that weird? And Patrick mentioned a date in April. So that's interesting. And the Barefoot Foreigner said, it's not New Year, Chris. I agree with you. it's in March, surely. And that's where we get April the 1st from. Because the old calendar, the end of the year, was the end of March. And people who thought that New Year's Day was the 1st of April were called fools. Hence, April Fool. There we go. And I believe you, Paul, you've been under the, shall we say, how can I put this? Where the location where you are, there's somebody else that's gone down or went down with the lurgy that you had. And it seems to be
Went
something
down.
about around
Sounds
where
like a sort of World War II
yes.
bomber.
Yes.
They're all going down. Yeah, loads of people have gone down with it. Oh, they're all going down,
area.
Eric. They're dropping like flies.
Area. Yes, but what is it about your area? Weird.
I don't know. Full of troublemakers, I suppose. I've no idea. I was okay on Thursday because we did a show on Thursday, which was fun and didn't feel too bad. But then afterwards, the next day, I was absolutely knackered again. And anyway, I think I'm past most of it. It's all very, very boring. I think it takes about 9 days. I think this is day 9 for me, so I feel a lot better. Stomach's still not right, though. I've lost a lot of weight. I've actually got my belt. You ever seen that film, The Inedibles? No, The Incredibles. You seen that film?
No, I never seen
Unfortunately.
That.
Oh,
it's the animation one, isn't it?
It is. Anyway, the main chap's a bit plump at the start of the film, and he does a lot of workout. In the end, he ends up measuring his. Well, I'm like that. I've lost a lot of waistline. Still not enough, but I have. So I've got my belt on the tiniest hole ever. You know when you marked a hole in your belt when you were actually slim, and then as the years go by, it goes the other way. Well, I'm right on this. the tiniest one of those. Not that this is particularly politically interesting or anything, but I just thought I'd share that and let you know. So, there've been a lot of ill people around. I should be meeting up with them. Maybe it won't be this week. It'll probably be next week, won't it? I'm all sort of slightly confused time-wise. I thought it was Sunday at first today, and then I realised it's Monday. It all gets a bit meaningless, doesn't it, in this gap between Christmas Day and New Year's Day? But never mind. That's okay. Yeah.
Well,
are you, Paul? Are you actually in England at the minute?
I actually am in England at this very moment. Yes, I am.
Yeah. What's your take on the? I'm going to use the word energies, but like people's attitude towards each other at the minute. Because honestly, it's like fucking Zombieland out there. Nobody. It's bizarre. Nobody's got the festive. Cheer or anything, whatever you want to call it. It's I don't know, it's dead, it's dull, it's nothing to it. It's horrible.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose I've not been paying too much attention because I've just literally not had a Christmas at all. I just didn't have one. I mean, I bought a turkey or something, cooked it, didn't eat it. I'm at it now, just throwing it away. Some members of my family have eaten it. I've just not been interested in anything. It's been, and I'm putting it down to having this lurgy type thing. But I felt sort of, what's the word, spiritually dissolute as well. Completely joyless, not miserable, just sort of disconnected, floating around like a bag of chemicals. I had a great walk today. Eric's been banging on about the weather being grey skies, which is true.
Not today. It's blue sky today.
Well, that's good. There you go. So that's pretty good. I went on a long walk, like 2 hours. It normally takes me about an hour and a half, but I wanted to do it. I just did it a bit slower. I'm just a bit out of gas. I do sound like an old fart, but I'm on my way back. And the sky was fantastic in a way. It's all gunmetal greys and dark blues. It was really wintry, and I quite liked that. There was a little bit of sunshine. Very cold. Most people are just plodding around at sort of medium speed. I guess it is a bit joyless. But I'm not really looking for any joyfulness, I suppose, because I've just not been in the mood for that at all. So I've watched far too many films. Got to the point where I just couldn't be. I don't even know what I was watching really. It was just because I couldn't be bothered. You know, when you haven't got the mental energy to read or do anything much. And I'm not normally like that, but I've been like that the last 4 or 5 days. So I'm looking forward to getting my teeth. The bit between my teeth again very, very soon. So,
brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. You might be right, Nathan, I suppose. I've got no sense of it round here. Everything's a little bit subdued.
Yeah, but we've all got joint passports, haven't we? So you said, are you in England or Britain? No, because we've also are in Fogham, aren't we? You see, so
absolutely,
so
are we dual citizens? Are we
dual citizenship? Yeah. So we're Fockham comes first, and then the other country. I mean, one has to go over the border to do one shopping in Tesco's, doesn't one? And mix with the riffraff of foreigners, and then you go back to Fockham. So there we go. But Barefoot Foreigner said, I thought Nathan Lucius was the people that, shall we say, that the people that control our Secret Service, hence all the money and women.
Guilty. Yeah, it's true. I'm only here to fool and deceive everyone, and clearly, judging from my my wealth, I'm just loaded at the minute. Yeah. I mean, we are all shills, aren't we, at the minute? I mean, we are. I thought that was we are, though, right?
But well, sort of. That's I think if you do come up, I think you're a shill if you have thousands and thousands of people on your list. Because I mean, I've been plugging away at this for over 15 years, and all I've got is 1,200 subscribers. So I don't know what that says about.
Hey, work your way up.
But I think it could be something to do with the Brussels sprouts, because that's the scene behind me, you see.
I'll tell you what I think it's to do with, Eric. Eric, I don't think it's anything directly to do with you. I think it's a good point you make. I think it's that the vast majority of so-called alternative voices are crap, right? And I've thought that nearly for years. And what I mean by that is that they're like mainstream people, but everything's geared up to deliver a trite message. It's tedious. The fact you don't need to sit around in this arena for 20 years to learn it all. You need a couple of years and that's it. Then the problem hits what to do. And so many of them don't know how to solve that problem, have just stepped up their media presence, I think, and amplified it and got very good at all that kind of stuff. And it still makes no difference. Yeah. People go, listen to this. It's a really considered, thoughtful opinion by someone. And it is. So what? It's not making any difference. It's irrelevant stuff. It's like so many people now, you only have to, as I said, you only have to spend a little bit of time. You can get to grips with the core issues. The government doesn't work for you. The bank is your enemy. Everything's a lie, blah, blah, blah. Really, there's a handful of core statements that are all true. So the question is, before everybody, how do we want to live? And that then gets really awkward because it's going to require a quality called courage, and we've not known how to find it or to organize properly to bring about what we want. And it's action that absolutely counts, and we're not acting. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm observing it in myself as well. It's probably better to do nothing if you're not clear about what you ought to be doing. And I just sometimes go, what am I going to do? Just, because we can all I could pick up the news threads. We can all do that. And maybe it's worth at least people like us doing it and spitting it back in people's lug holes than other people, because we put a spin on it and, you put a bit of toilet humour in there. I've noticed every now and again, Eric.
Just
blah,
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 blah.
Do I? Me?
Just let me interject here, mate. Don't you think that for some people, there's no interest in actually any solution, because they've made quite a comfortable living out of their fear porn and I mean, just from the titles that some of them put on their videos, they clearly love ramping it up. And to them, I don't really think they're never interested in talking about solutions. All they're ever interested in talking about is how awful it's going to be, and that, to a certain extent, is part of the problem, mate. Is that
yes, it is. I don't think what, Chris. I don't think it's so much that they're not interested in talking about solutions. I think they literally don't know what any are.
Maybe
they haven't. They're involved in a kind of, it's a big echo chamber, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we're just a bunch of middle-aged farts going or whatever, and everybody should be doing that. But there's so many smart asses have rocked up with a microphone, right, particularly over the COVID thing, just basically like a massive echo chamber, repeating stuff. And then everybody gets drawn off into this direction and that. I mean, the interesting thing again, this guy Trump, for example, is not even the president yet, is he? But already all of the hysteria and positivity is just about totally evaporated, thankfully. It didn't take long. And everybody's looking at who he's picking and going, oh, welcome to the new boss, same as the old boss.
There's
it's
still
just
quite a few people that are still pushing him though, mate. And in terms of the,
I mean, I don't know what to say.
I know.
I don't know what to say. It's ridiculous.
Paul, I can't believe they fell for it a second time round, mate. That's my big kind of like, you know, cognitive dissonance is like, you know, surely you realised the first time that he just did what every other one does. Why do you think he's going to do something different this time, mate? The whole Trump thing just blows my mind because I think he was put there for the purpose that by 2015, 2014, 2015, people in America were starting to get disenfranchised with politics. People were starting to realise that there were two cheeks of the same arse, and didn't matter. So Trump's a hand grenade. They tossed him in, and it worked. It ignited the enthusiasm of people that probably wouldn't have bothered to do anything had Trump not got in. And I also believe that him being booted out in 2020 was another part of the plan, so they could kick the can down the road another 4 years and bring him back to have another go and keep people again. Mate, it just blows my mind that anyone would have any faith in any politician in this day and age.
I agree.
You know, especially one that's with Republican, Democrat, Conservative, Labour, Liberal Democrat, Greens. You know, that I don't know, mate. I still don't get my head around it. Why do people fall for the nonsense?
Because they don't want to take responsibility for their own lives. That's still want mummy and daddy state to look after them. And it's actually such an embedded, deep, subconscious thing. I completely understand why people would want that. Actually, in an honourable and just political environment, everybody bursts out laughing, right? They're right to expect that, are they not? If somebody stands up and says, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, they have a right to expect that they would deliver on those promises. What they fail or willfully will not acknowledge is that every single promise ever made to them in their entire life, irrespective of which party has ever made it, has never, ever been delivered. Not one, ever. And it never, ever will. Because, you know, and so they can't abide it. But who's going to look after us? You are. But I don't know how to. Well, welcome to the world then. Time to grow up, boys and girls. Exactly. And it is a challenge. It's a massive challenge because we are trained to operate under these authority structures, which if they were run right would work well. It's just that they're corrupted. So we have a problem. Mate.
It's mind control. It starts it starts with the television, I think, but then it starts at school. School.
That starts at infant school.
But
you know,
it starts.
I'm the teacher. You sat down.
Second you come out the womb, because it's all passed on to you as you grow up. You know, and when you go to school, you're taught to move when the bell rings and ask for permission before you go for a piss, and all this, all dress the same and look the same, and
it's conditioning, isn't it?
It is conditioning, mate. And you're right, Paul. That's what's going on. People they're mind controlled from birth, mate.
I think, the mind control, you're right. But I don't see that as a problem, you see.
2 minutes.
I've never seen mind control or brainwashing as a problem. Because whenever people say that, it's under something, oh, somebody's doing something really nefarious to my brain and I don't know what's going on. I don't think it's like that. It's much more subtle and more quietly destructive. We all got born whenever we got born, wherever we got born, to the parents we got born to. And that's happened to a little baby who just got born 10 minutes ago somewhere in England, we'll assume, right? And they're going to get dealt a circumstances that no one can really fully control. Even their parents can't fully control all that kind of stuff. That's what happens. So you're going to get input, whether you like it or not. Whether it's coming from a really wise, intelligent source or an incredibly stupid one. And the challenge every single individual's got is to get that they're being brainwashed. It's one of the challenges, in the sense that once you get that you are conditionable and that you have been conditioned and you begin to observe this conditioning that you've received, then you're in the process of getting hold of it. You're free of it. You've got to recognize that you're brainwashed. Once you get that you're brainwashed, you're not. Because you see the process for what it was, whereas many people will run around and tell you, of course, the old chestnut, well, I live in a country of freedom and democracy. Sorry, what does that mean? But I'm free. Well, they told me at school, but that doesn't mean anything. It's all meaningless. So I think
you're not free, mate. Not when you're paying tax or extortion, as I like to.
Well, I don't even. You're not. But freedom. I'm also going to suggest freedom's not even what we're after. I think it's a complete misnomer. I think that's another red herring. I really do. I think. How do you know if you pursued freedom? Got it? How long would you keep it for? 10 minutes? How do you know when you've lost it? What were you actually talking about? It's nonsense. I would suggest freedom's an experience that we're after, a sense of aliveness and spontaneous connection to things, but it's only achievable when you live under a framework of ethics and morals and law. And if you don't, you'll never know whether you're free or not because you've got nothing to measure it against. In other words, we do require constraints. We will naturally create them amongst ourselves in groups to stop the arsehole wrecking the party and or to reward people that behave well. So the idea that anybody can do anything they want at any time is complete crap. And the whole of the history of human beings shows that we don't want that. I don't want it. I want law. And of course people go, oh, you want to repress everybody? No, we have a code of conduct that brings out the best in everyone. And that's not easy. I mean, it really isn't. It's never going to be easy. And of course, it throws up things like tyrants and people that, with strong personalities and psychopaths and sociopaths and all the other words we've got to describe them. But without a framework of law, I mean, if you look at a family, a man and a woman, there's a law operating in the family. There needs to be. If the dad's not in charge, the thing will go, shit. Yeah, and that's what...
To my mind, Paul, I mean, and this is just to my mind, mate. There's only one law that we need, and it's to me, it's to quite literally do no harm, and I know that's an extremely vague, sort of like way of looking at it, if you like, but everything that you do, do it with love and do no harm in everything that you do. Try not to do anything that's going to cause pain or distress to people. I think, the trouble is, mate, again, you get into the territory, don't you? This is a really complicated argument, but you get into the territory where people's opinions differ on what's right and wrong. So where's your line? What I get what you're saying about, we want to live in a world where there's...
I don't think we differ too much on the fundamentals, though. I think there'll always be different. I mean, history shows that people will argue the toss over anything if they feel that there's a bit of extra power and beans in it for them and all this, that, and the other. You're absolutely right. But I think broadly we can agree. I mean, if we can't, thou shalt not murder is a law. If you say, no, it's okay to murder, then no one's going to hang around in a village or a town where that's allowed.
No, that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? We don't, and obviously.
But it's a law. I'm just pointing out there is a law, you see, so we actually know it in our hearts.
I'm not being confrontational at all, mate.
I know you're not.
You would agree on most things, I think, my friend. I think most of the things that I've heard come out of your mouth, I would agree with, mate. I just make the point, my friend, that again, we as human beings, we're all extremely different. We all have. I'll use an example. So up until recently, I had 4 dogs. I've got 3 now. We lost one 3 or 4 weeks ago. But within those 4 dogs, there had to be control, because if not, one of them, the one that's sitting in the kitchen with me now, would have ripped 2 of the others to pieces, mate. So we had to have stairgates and things in our house. So I'm reinforcing what you're saying here, mate. So we had to have certain controls in order for us to live our lives peacefully. If we didn't, it would have been carnage. So I understand the concept of controls and things like that, mate. And I also worked in social care for 10 years with people that nobody wanted to work with, mate. Adults with learning disabilities that were from forensic services, people that were 8 to 1 and had the whole floor of a psychiatric unit to themselves before they came to us and things like that. So I understand, mate, the concept of what you're talking about. My point is that everybody will have a different idea on what to do. And that's where it becomes a problem, doesn't it?
Without law, yeah, it does. That's why we've created, or are willing to, when we're at our best, be obedient to a framework of law that guarantees not total safety, but improves it so enormously that it makes the possibility of civilized behavior an actuality, that you could actually enter into it, as opposed to behaving like savages. So that's why I was saying that the idea, I know everybody's different, but that doesn't mean to say you've got, includes me, carte blanche to just behave any old way I like. Because it doesn't work. If I work on the basis that I want to interact with other human beings in a decent and effective way, by effective I mean commercially prosperous, for example, the exchange of goods and services. And I don't even mean it financially. I just mean in terms of a village situation or whatever. I've got chickens, you've got cows, let's swap some eggs and some beef, that kind of stuff. These are just, we take all these things for granted, and I guess we're likely to, because we've been doing this sort of behavior for thousands of years. But without a framework of law, we're done for. I mean, what we've got now, however, is that we've got a law system that is corroded and has moved away from the true spirit of the law.
So we've got a lot of corruption, mate, as well. We've got a lot of high-end corruption, haven't we? And you've also got a Masonic influence within the police as well.
Yes.
There's, my problem with any kind of control. I've always been a difficult bugger, Paul. I've worked a lot of different jobs, mate. Out of them jobs, there's probably about 2 or 3 people that I could name that have actually been able to manage me, that have actually been able to get me in line and get what they wanted out of me, because I am difficult, mate. And my point is that just whenever you have a form of control, it's open to corruption. This is my problem with the idea of any kind of law, mate. Is that and again, like I say, mate, I'm not trying to toss a hand grenade in and be deliberately confrontational. I'm just trying to throw in the other side of the argument, if you like.
Which I'd just like to interject at that.
Of course you can, Nathan.
You're absolutely right. See, if we just keep this echo chamber going, we're not going to learn anything. We're not. So I'm part of a Telegram group that's ripping itself apart. I've been asked to go in there to basically stir shit up, because it's an echo chamber, and they're stuck, and they cannot shift their beliefs. Doesn't matter how wrong they are or how much they've been proven to be incorrect in something. They will not shift, because they're stuck in this paradigm where if they don't believe it or they don't agree with it, they don't want to know it. They won't challenge it. So we need these alternative opinions, because essentially, look, we are now the ones, we're the talking heads. And so I think it's only fair that we now actually do throw alternative opinions at each other respectfully, and that's what we're doing here. And so I think this is necessary, Chris. To be honest, I think it's what you're doing.
I agree with you. Yeah, because I mean, the first thing you do, if you go along to a truth group, they find your telephone number, and the next day, your phone will sound like a bleeding fire alarm. Ding, 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 ding. Why? Because they're showing you people who they want to worship, who are telling them what they want to hear. And that's how clever politicians get into power. That's how Trump's got there. He's told people what they want to hear. Not necessarily the truth, but what people want to hear. But changing the subject slightly, Paul was
Chris, before we do, Chris, can I just ask Paul a question? And
certainly.
I'm genuinely interested. So, Paul, with respect to what we've been talking about, what do you believe, mate, is the solution in terms of who do we give these powers to decide what is right and wrong? Do we have like an assembly of people? Do we listen to a group of elders? Who provides the consensus on what's right and wrong, my friend? And I think I might know what you're going to say, but I'm really interested, mate. What do you think?
Well, I don't think there's any perfect solution. The history of everything shows that. But yes, a group of elders. I mean, in English history, you've got a thing called the alderman within parishes. It simply means elder man. And there was a culture here that the elder man, the elder men, being elder and being around for a bit, and we assume reasonably loyal and decent towards their kith and kin, were the right people to go to for decisions about things that a 10-year-old wouldn't know how to deal with, because when you're young, there's a lot of things you just don't know. Yeah. So the wealth of us as a people resides in us as a people, and to re-establish that culture once more. I know this sounds trite and fey, but in the past it has worked well. And you're right, there is always a problem when someone says, you've appointed me as an authority to do this. But we have to do that. I mean, because, well, we have to. I don't know what the other thing is. It's like, well, we'll do nothing then.
I think you're on the money in terms of if there was to be a solution. I mean, mate, elderly people, it breaks my heart. I mean, most of my customers are of a certain age, mate. I've had a lot die on me, and I've only been a gardener for 3.5 years, mate, but I've been to a few funerals. We don't value them, mate. It's brutal.
No, it's been driven out of the culture, and it's an amazing resource that these people have got, and they're calm.
Mate, I learnt to garden from two in particular. I'm a cocky little git, mate, and if I think I want to do something, I think I can do it, I'll do it. So I set myself up as a gardener 3.5 years ago, knowing absolutely sod all about gardening. I thought I knew something, but quickly learned I didn't know a lot at all. But these two old customers of mine, both who I still go to, mate, I value them because I listened, mate. I paid attention, and I was smart enough to keep my head down and listen to what they were telling me, and I soaked it up like a sponge, mate. And you know, there's not that doesn't exist in our society anymore. We do not value the people with the most experience, and we treat them like crap, mate. And
I agree. And
in my eyes, that is the biggest problem.
Well, I think it's definitely a key part of it. It really is, because there's also a line then of like knowledge and understanding from the grandchildren through to the grandparents. And this is a very wholesome thing in all sorts of ways. The other problem that we have with governance is it's just simply too large. Because of this drive towards centralization of power, courtesy of central banking and blah, 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 and all the other attendant things. Governance in the past used to be a local affair, and it needs to be. They say, there's that phrase, that all politics is local. And what is politics? It's simply deciding on the ground rules of how you're going to live. What are the decisions that we want to make? What do we want to do about that river? Can we do, every time it floods every 6 years, what should we do? Should we make a contingency for that? Nah, I can't be bothered. Yeah, I can. Or whatever. So there will always be problems, as it were, challenges, hurdles to overcome. Good. How do we overcome them best? It seems to me in smaller units of decision-making power where it's dynamic, so that the person in your local area who is making these decisions. And of course, what this really confers on people is that they must get involved with that communications process. Of course, this makes me almost puke because, as we all know here, that communications process has been buggered this way and that to become one of the most exhausting, tedious arenas. If you listen to people in local councils, they can't talk because they're involved in political arse covering to the nth degree. They don't even know they're doing it.
Well, there's don't forget the conflicts of interest involved as well. I mean, how many of these councillors have got businesses and other interests that go directly counter to their, let's say, serving the people? We're told they're public servants. They're nothing of the sort, and anyone who believes that's frankly just a dimwit. So
I agree.
Well, there's a criteria, Nathan, especially as well there's a criteria for being an alderman. You've got to declare every single. We have to know everything. I mean, I've often thought about banking. Right? Why can't everybody's account book be transparent to everybody else? I'm serious. What do you want any banking privacy for?
Also, with politics.
No, we think about it. I've got nothing, right? I've got bugger all in my bank account. I don't care. I'm not ashamed. My life's not about acquiring money, right? But the big guys, they don't want you. Oh, no, we need privacy to protect our wealth. Why? How much have you got?
They're scumbags anyway, and we know they're all loaded, mate. I don't need to know.
I know we know that, but with something like that, we might reduce the amount of scumbaggery, the amount of finance that they've hived off. It makes it incredibly difficult. You go, no, there are no protecting private laws. Look at all these offshore things, the Cayman Islands and all this crap that comes out of the City of London. There's hundreds, if not trillions of pounds over there that should be serving this country. But it's not, because people are obsessed. They're obsessed with worshipping mammon. As I'm just saying, I can't solve all this overnight. But if you wanted an honourable decision-making group in your local parish, why should people have lots of hidden assets all over the place so that the decision-making goes wonky because it's going to conflict with their shareholdings in X, Y, Z? Because that is what happens, as you pointed out.
Point, mate, and I'm with you in terms of I believe in transparency. I'm a very open man. I always have been. There's nothing about me that I won't tell you, mate. We ain't got a pot to piss in. We never will have. That's partly because of my upbringing and the fact that I was taught that money was the answer to everything. And we had quite an affluent first 12 years until my mum and dad separated. But you know, there are reasons why I mean, I'll give you a brief example. Last Saturday, I was paid to take down a tree. I'd done quite well out of it financially, as you do for a job like that, but I still half the price of a tree surgeon. But I was left with a pile of wood, which if I chose to, I could have quite easily got my wife to put an advert on Facebook and we could have got 100 quid for it. Mate, I just took it to one of my old boys and gave it to him, because I'll never be rich, mate. I'm not a businessman. But my point. But
you see, I think I know exactly what you mean. But the word "rich" is not necessarily to do with money.
Yeah, I know, and it is.
Right. You see, if we have part of the yearning in this, the hidden glue in all these sorts of conversations, I think, is that we have an idea in our little hearts, a good one, of a much more idealized way of living. And if you put it in cliched terms, it is the village, and it is the village green, and it is knowing your local neighbours, and it is eating food that you or your neighbour grew, and there's a local school. It's all about smallness. It's about intimacy. Yeah. It's about knowing and caring for your neighbour and accepting that, yeah, you'll have a dispute with some of them, and that needs to be sorted out because that's life and it will happen, blah, blah, blah. And we yearn for that. And that's the wealth that we're really after. What's the point for having trillions if the whole world's just a toilet and you can't buy that? And you were able to buy that.
The feeling that I got giving the wood to Alan was worth far more than 100 quid to me, mate. So, you know, in terms of enrichment, then there you go. But I make the point that that's not necessarily the way of thinking by most people these days, is it? And, you know, that's part of our problem. I think you're right. Bringing things back to smaller groups, where you've got a community spirit, where you are looking out for each other. It's been driven out of us, though, Paul, for the last 200-300 years, maybe even longer, mate, hasn't it?
Especially in the last 50, they've really gone to town, destroying communities and family spirit and all. You know what we're
closing
talking
down
about
pubs.
Here. Yeah, well, that's...
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
But by the way, Dan MC says the volume levels are a bit off, Chris.
I did notice them a bit.
Yeah, I've tried adjusting the volume on my mic. They said I was a bit quiet, so I think it's gone up a little bit. I might have to do something in butt, as they say. But. That's
well, you're going to get shot for that one.
Yes. But the thing is quite interesting here, I'm going back to the questions again, and we've got an advert coming on. We've got now Barefoot Foreigner says the body needs to fast to be able to heal. Yes. Or was it autophagy, isn't it? Yes, I fast.
Autophagy. I'll back her up on this because I did a 7-day water fast. It wasn't bloody easy, I'll tell you. It's literally nothing in apart from water and electrolytes, and that's it. And it's tough, but my God, when you come out of that, it's your body feels sort of like revitalized and re-energized and everything. You know, it's all round good. Apparently, the amount of things that it'll cure, the non-insulin dependent diabetics can be cured by water fasting. Epilepsy can be cured by it. Apparently asthma and things like this can be cured by it. Mine wasn't, but there you go. And even certain types of cancer. I don't know I know it's a bit of a segue, but yeah, that's an interesting one that I think we need to come back to that for a whole show.
Well, we can do that. Probably get Miles on because I actually I have 2 meals a day. I have a main meal first thing in the morning. The worst thing you can have is, in my view, and I'm not medically trained, is cereal in the morning, you know. And then I go on a 16-hour fast from, I have a snack about 3:30, and then I won't eat anything until the next day. And that's a 16 to 19-hour fast, and I feel good on it. And I lost quite a bit of weight. You know, I lost 1.5 stone, down to 9 stone now. Although I've put it up about 9.5 stone now because I've been eating a bit over Christmas, so you know, been a bit of a gruff guts. But
do you know the whole breakfast thing? Apparently that we don't actually need breakfast. You know, the whole break the fast. Apparently this comes from our banker friends that originated in Bavaria. I won't mention any certain family names, but that was a construct by that particular family. It's not necessary. It's not a necessary meal.
A lot of what we do isn't, Nathan, mate. A lot of what we do.
Absolutely.
Again, and it comes down to consumerism, which basically helps to keep you enslaved, so that you keep working your job, so that you can have the things that they tell you need to have. So much of what we've been told, mate, is just pure horse manure. And
I absolutely agree.
The meals thing, who knows? I mean, there's all kinds of opinions out there. I think probably the best thing is just eat when you feel hungry. Whenever that is.
That's right. But I think go back to cavemen, because cavemen, it's important to have protein first thing in the morning, because protein is for your energy that you need first thing in the morning. So I have a high protein meal first thing. And then, as I say, I snack around about 3 o'clock. And that's it.
You see, I can't eat in the morning though, Chris.
Me neither.
My body doesn't want it. I quite often go till 7, 8 o'clock in the evening before I eat anything. Now, part of that might have been from my time when I was homeless. You don't eat a lot. You get used to it. Working nights for 2 years as well. There's probably a multitude of reasons, but a lot of the time, mate, I don't want anything until 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'll choose to have a meal then. And Jess is happy to eat at that time, and that's what we do. And then I might not eat again till the next day. I might have a couple of little cheeky snacks, things that aren't good for me, that I might choose to partake in later on in the night, the odd Jaffa cake here or there. But mate, again, we're all different, every single one of us, and what's right for one might not be right for another. So. Like I say, I think.
Hello, I think you're suffering from disease. So, are you there, Chris?
I'm here.
Yeah, I think.
Can you not hear me?
Oh, you're still. No, yeah, your communication broke down because the lump of string from this length from Fockham to your branch of Fockham, I think it got a bit damp, so we need to pull it a bit tighter, and we should be okay.
Norfolk probably wasn't pedalling fast enough, mate.
I don't know, mate. I heard all of that fine, Chris. So I think the gremlins have got your computer.
They've got you again, Chris.
Yeah. They've got me again. The boys are listening in.
Paul, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
That's good. That's right. I think Eric's okay now. That's it. But we've also got an advert for a future show coming up. Are you up for an advert for a future show?
Go for it.
Okay, I've got to find the bleeding thing first. Here it is. This will be coming up soon.
Hello, Wayne here. I'd just like to wish Happy New Year to all Chris's viewers and thank everyone who watched the previous shows we did together on the esoteric and the paranormal. And I'm pleased to say on the 13th of January, I'll be returning to the Eric Von Essex show on YouTube with Chris for a tarot phone-in special, where we won't just be talking about these things here, but giving viewers the opportunity to call in for a free tarot reading. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just let us know as soon as possible. Maybe there's a new relationship that you're in that you're not sure about. Or perhaps you're thinking about learning some new skills. You may just need some guidance for where you're heading in 2025. But as a friend of mine once said, the tarot are at their best when used as a tool for guidance, when they're viewed as a set of windows from which to look at life from a different perspective. So just remember to join myself and Chris on the 13th of January on the Eric Von Essex show on YouTube for a full moon tarot phone-in special. Happy New Year. Hope to see you soon. Bye for now.
There we are. So there we are. Oh, bloody hell. It's made Chris walk away from it. That's it. Yeah. He's vanished. It's made him vanish. So there we are. And, so that's going to be an exciting show. We've got one person booked already, and they're there's a lot of interest in it. So, please refrain, ladies. Please refrain. You get this problem, Nathan, as well, and that is ladies climbing up ladders, tapping on our bedroom window at night. It is very, very disturbing, isn't it? The young lads like us, yes, young lads like us. We've got to get our beauty sleep. I wish. But what was said earlier, I think it was Paul said that they've I can't find it where he said it, but
Chris,
they've been yes.
Can
what?
I interject?
Right.
I just realised, you know what? Because obviously I've just been caught out there making a sneaky cup of tea and visiting the little boys' room while you did your advert from Wayne. And obviously I misjudged it and didn't get back. I've just realised Paul could be doing anything behind his cloak of anonym. He could be dressed like the fairy on top of the tree for all we know.
Could be.
I think Chris, this says more about you than me. That's very revealing.
That
was an instant deflection. That we can't have that.
No, it wasn't a deflection. No, it was an insight.
No. I think Paul's right. I really do. I have a very curious and vivid imagination, Paul.
Good.
Excellent. No, it's not, mate. It's not. It takes me to some incredibly dark places sometimes.
What you mean, like Grimsby?
Worse than Grimsby, mate. Like things that really you wouldn't even begin to comprehend. So it can be a curse, my friend.
Right.
And I think your rebuttal, if that was the right word, was
I am quite brutal, actually, but yes.
Yeah. Well, mate, I think you were spot on. I think that was incredible insight on your behalf there. So there we go.
Thank you.
But Barefoot Foragers said, "Why isn't your camera on, Paul? Is it because you're in your PJs or naked?" So
there you go. See, already, listen.
See? Yes.
Good. This is excellent. Well, Barefoot Forager, already you're proving why I take this approach. You're having, in your minds, a lot more fun than the people who can see everybody else. You see, you leave absolutely nothing to the imagination, so the imagination never gets stimulated. Whereas I, because of this, of course, they're dreaming and thinking all sorts of wonderful, amazing, vivid and interesting things, making the show more memorable for them. And they're going, really, is he in his PJs?
That's right.
I'm not, actually. I'm in my shorts, though. I've still got my shorts on.
No,
my knees are bloody freezing.
In my head, Paul. In my head, you're in a fairy costume, mate.
Well, I think, Chris, finding out what's in your head, Chris should do a show about Chris's head. This is really, really good.
No, you would never
what's
get over it.
And now it's that time of the show where what's in Chris's head, Chris? And that's what it is.
Well, you're in your shorts. That reminds me of a gag about an Irish bloke that walks into a pub, you see. And he said, I'd like a pint of Guinness, please. And he drinks it down. He said, I'll have another pint, please. And he drinks it down. He has another pint, please. And he's going on drinking these pints of Guinness down. He doesn't seem drunk. And he says, excuse me. He says, do you sell shorts? He said, certainly, sir. Oh, he said, that's good. He says, I just crapped my pads. Sorry. So terrible one, that is.
I'm seeing a theme here. What about you, Chris? Are we seeing a theme with Mr. Von Essex?
Toilet humour, constant.
We got Patrick twice. Have you got your twiddle, Patrick? Hang on, shall I remove one of you? Yeah, Patrick, have you got a twin? Are you there? Are you receiving us?
There, mate.
No, I think I'll knock one off and he can have the other one.
You're not on YouTube, mate. There's another platform for that.
Yeah, but hang on, add to stage. But anyway, regarding Wayne, you can contact me via Telegram. You can book a slot in Telegram, or you can come on Facebook. I've got, or go on to fockhamhallradio.com where you get the contact details on there, so you can use email. So we've got 3 methods of contacting to book a slot. So there you go, and it's free of charge.
Can anybody hear me?
No, we can't hear a thing. No, can't hear a thing, Patrick. No, only joking. Of course you can.
I was going to tell Paul English, soapbox is down, silent. Just
okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what.
It's down last night.
I'm on the road right now. That's why my connection isn't very good.
But
I'm going to hang up and I'll call you back.
Okay,
Patrick.
See you, Patrick. That's it. But yes, the thing is with my predictions. Now, I predict, which I said earlier, that Keir Sadist will be here this time next year because he's a ruthless bastard, and he will remain in his seat. Because when Thatcher first got in, they said, "Oh, we give her about 3 months or something like that." But no, she was there for a full term. Ruthless people do tend to carry on. And I was saying earlier about what about we all have a whip round, and because I'm deeply saddened that what's her name now?
Esther Ransom.
Esther Ransom. Thanks, mate. Esther Ransom hasn't gone to Switzerland to top herself. Could we have a whip round to give her a one-way flight there, and she could take Keir Starmer with her? So, any ideas?
Just for legal purposes, we've got to say we're not advocating that. We're just suggesting that it would be beneficial.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the interest of mankind.
I'd like to say about her, but I'm just going to keep stum. My mum always taught me, if you haven't got anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all.
Oh, she's a lovely person, isn't she? Absolutely gorgeous.
I'm just gonna.
She wouldn't have liked me. I've got nothing good to say.
Nothing, mate. Nothing at all. There's nothing positive I can add to this conversation. At all. Like,
well, Chris, you don't have to say anything because we know you're imagining it right now.
Can you imagine that it's sort of BBC saying, "And now she's just gone to the airport for the last time, and she's just leaving. Oh, she's taking Keir with her, and she'll be meeting up with the WEF when she meets there. That's good, right? You know, wouldn't that be nice? You've got to think of good things for the future. But are you got anybody makes a prediction for next year? Like, for example,
I'm interested to see whether these Deagle forecasts come true or not. For anyone that
be careful, we was cut off last night because of that, weren't we?
Right, well, yeah, there was. I think aren't they an insurance company? Somebody help me out here, Paul. Do you know anything about Deagle?
No, they're not. No, they were just an analysis or a bunch of analysts involved. I think they were connected to, if it's still there, sort of like military defense journals around the world and things like this.
I think you're right. And
it was something like that.
Forecasts out, didn't they, about population changes in?
Yeah, they were around for 10 years ago. We were doing shows on them about 10 years back, and then they disappeared for a few years, and then
disappeared, didn't they?
Well, maybe they did, and then a lot of people piled back in again. So this is the year. I mean, the thing is that if it comes true, we won't know it because we're likely to be in the numbers that disappear. So just as you're about to realise, right, that it's coming true, you go, oh, you won't be able to tell anybody, and there'll be nobody there to listen to you because they'll be all dead as well. So I don't know what.
Mate, then there's going to be a massive change. I mean, it's interesting, mate. I don't buy into it any more than I buy into anything. It's interesting, though, isn't it?
It is. I think if people dwell on it too much, it just makes you unduly miserable. Just be miserable at the standard British UK government rate of miserableness. Like, we don't need to go overboard and really become professionally miserable. Yeah, it's just like going nuts on the whole thing. So there's plenty to be miserable about. I wouldn't really sort of add to the pile. You know, most things don't happen anyway. And things that do happen, you go, oh, bloody hell, that was worse than what we were anticipating. So it's all fun and games, isn't it, really? But
it is all fun and games, mate. It's all part of the show, isn't it? That's the whole point. Bread and circuses, and the world stage and geopolitics is the biggest circus of the lot, I think.
Well, I mean, it's a doom factor. I mean, where does that get people? If you're just going to constantly absorb doom, you're going to depress yourself. You're going to become inactive, pointless, useless. You're not going to be good to your friends or your family or the network or the movement or whatever you want to call it. You're just going to stand down in fear. And I've been there, so I understand why people go there. I've been there, and I spent about 4 years there, and I hated every minute of it. And it doesn't get you any. You know, look, no matter what the situation is in life, you deal with it because you can't not, right? I think that's what we're saying here is we've got to deal with it as best we can, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. It's a lot better if you can find someone to row your boat with, mate. I'm lucky. I've married somebody who I think we worship each other. But the important thing is we have a laugh, and no matter what, we laugh every day. And that's a big part. If you can find somebody you can share your boat with, row your boat with, and doesn't matter whether you see the world the same. All that matters is you can have a good crack together and have a laugh. And
I hate rowing.
She just said in the background, I hate rowing.
But I'd rather be with you than anyone else.
Bless you. So me too. But seriously, that is a big part of it. If you can find humour in no matter what, no matter how bad your day is, if you can find something to giggle about, that is definitely a big part of it. I think.
I like that. Actually, I think that's really good advice as well.
So we've got to hit back with humour and laugh and laugh and laugh at these bozos in power. Because we've got a lot of humour. They're funny.
Weird and stuff.
Sorry, I mean, they're really funny. I mean, you look at Keir Starmer, he really is funny when you look at him.
Not
I mean,
as funny as Boris Johnson would look at, though. That was hilarious. I mean, I'm pretty sure they put people in that look like clowns on purpose.
Yeah.
Because Johnson was just pure comedy. I mean, the hair, you know, the photo ops that he partook in, wearing various PPE equipment and stuff, just making him look even more like a buffoon. I honestly think that's part of the game for them.
So do I, mate.
Let's see if we can convince them that this idiot pulls the strings. Let's see if we can, and people will buy it.
So a friend of mine says it's an IQ test, and as much as it probably is to a point, I don't think it's about that. It's almost like they're pushing it out just to see how far they can go with it, just to see, you know, what the barriers are, what the limitations of their I'm sorry, I'm going to swear again, piss taking is, because that's what they're doing. They're taking a piss.
That's what they did in 2021, mate. They just kept pushing it, and it was that second Christmas, is my belief, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. They were talking about having people stay at home again all over Christmas, and people were just basically saying, nah, bollocks, nah, I ain't doing it, mate. I ain't doing it. I'm going to go and do what I want. And then not long after that, we had the emerging conflict in
Ukraine, wasn't it?
Europe. Yeah. I wasn't going to say the word, but yeah.
Oh, bollocks.
The one thing you can say about
we're talking about Kiev and Rust, right? We're talking about the Vikings.
Putin, he got rid of the Divok, didn't he? Pretty much overnight, because the whole news channel cycle just went from that, because they were still trying to bring out new little variants, trying to shit people up and that, weren't they? And again, I think you're right, mate. I think they do. They take things as far as they dare for a while, then they ease off. And I'll tell you what, you want a prediction, Chris, for 2025?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the old chicken cold comes in. I think that's
I think that's the next one. But
chicken cold, I think, is the next one.
Right. But do you think it's chicken cold? Right. Anybody else? And also, we've got to have fear porn of the year award, because what's happened? I mean, I really miss the hole in the ozone layer. What the bloody hell's happened to the hole in the ozone layer? That's died a death. Then we had what was that?
They
HIV.
filled it with chemtrails. That's what they did. They found it.
You got it. The other one was it was AIDS, wasn't it? And then what was the one before that? You had another one, herpes. That was it. What's happened to herpes? I mean,
monkeypox. Oh shit! I've done it again, haven't I?
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah. We'll drop a clanger, don't we? You know, but actually, what about New Year's resolutions? Now, you've heard my New Year's resolution. I've learned to speak Japanese, and I'm going to show the audience how to speak Japanese. You see, now the first thing you've got to have chronic constipation to speak Japanese, and the second thing is you've got to suffer from chilblains, because it's that's how the Japanese speak, you see. So if you've got chilblains and constipation, you will be able to speak Japanese with ease.
Would it be wrong of me to say that would be easy peasy Japanesey? I knew that was coming.
We were swapping how to be rude to people in different languages, you see, because I can actually swear in Urdu, Arabic.
Shall we read some comments, Mr. Von Essex?
Yes, I think it might be a good idea. Well, we're just sort of swapping, foul language.
Well, I had the preview of this, Chris, so I know what's coming next, and believe me, it just gets worse, especially when we get this. I didn't do it.
Well, I've got a nice gag coming up. I'm the same. I will drink water for much of the day, and then have a meal around 4 to 6 p.m. and then nothing until the following day, similar time. Yes, it's what suits you as a person.
Right.
It suits me, my diet, so I'm quite happy on that.
Chris, can we clear something up here? Paul, the man with the picture with the bus, is this the same Paul that we're speaking to on the show?
Yes. No, it isn't. I just did that to deceive you even further. I completely lied. I don't like buses. No.
No one likes buses, mate. They're horrible.
I don't like them that colour. Some people love buses. Down here, there are bus maniacs. I'm serious. They're absolutely obsessed with buses.
Paul, this isn't you, no?
No, it's not me.
Right. It's just there's a lot of Pauls. I'm getting confused.
Yes, Pauls. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a Patrick. We got a Patrick. Yeah, here we go. Is he back?
I'm back.
Are you there?
Yes.
Hello. Now
Hello.
you're speaking from the Fockham, what is it, Zulu outpost of Wisconsin, aren't you?
Yeah. Viceroy of Cheese.
Viceroy. That's right. Viceroy of Cheese.
Yeah.
That's it. And I believe
Paul soapbox went dead again.
Oh, really? Well, it's just rubbish. It's just rubbish. Yeah, it's just forget it. I can't be bothered with anything. Yeah. Bugger off, soapbox. He's back up again. I don't know why he keeps stopping. But, yeah.
It's going up and down like a tart's straws, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Oh,
I've never heard such an expression.
Patrick, you're on Radio Windmiller, aren't you? So,
yes.
Yes. Is it because there's a lot of windmills around Wisconsin? I mean, do you have windmills over there? He's thinking about it. Is there windmills in Wisconsin? No, we don't know. I know it's. I have these dramatic questions that people are aghast at, aren't they? You know.
You must have offended him, Chris. He's gone.
Yes, that's it. Right, that's it. But that was interesting what Paul was saying earlier about certain G things. Certain erections around the Hove area and Brighton area over the weekend.
When you say erections, you mean construction, Chris, don't you?
Constructions, yes.
Let's just be clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't
We're not doing too well
say
tonight,
the
are
word.
we, really, in the grand scheme?
Hang on. How many fingers have I got up?
My mind that,
G. That's right. I mean, G is being constructed around Brighton and Hove. There's been
hang on. Are you doing a sign there, Chris? You're never going to live that down now. Wait. Oh, you can't do that now.
And then bring the Illuminati.
With you now. We're all doing
oh, bloody hell. Yeah, I've done the sign, haven't
I?
Game over.
That's it, the old covered eye, isn't it? That's a...
You've done it again.
That's the one.
Oh, bloody hell. That's it. Yeah, Illuminati.
As if people didn't need confirmation. He did it twice in one show.
So have you
pretend it was a joke?
Now, Paul, have you noticed a lot of erections? Sorry, constructions around the your area?
No.
Sorry, folks, we're going to be on OnlyFans in no time at all. Don't worry, we'll be over there soon.
Of
what type of constructions, Eric?
The amount of fingers you've got on one hand. And it says G at the end because we can't say the full word because we get cut off by.
Masks. You can say telephone.
Yes,
masks.
telephone masks for internet.
Masks.
Masks.
Oh right, masts. You mean?
Yes,
5G towers? Is that what you mean?
Oh,
can't we say that?
No, you can't say that. Actually, you just said it.
Why? Why can't we say that?
I'm pretty sure
Why can't we say it?
Because it sends the klaxons off at GCHQ, I think. Sorry, at
go off at 8 o'clock every Monday night, mate. When you go live, the klaxons.
Yeah,
So
YouTube.
Well, they have been putting a few up, yeah. But I haven't seen anything for about. I think there was a group going to oppose the putting of one up about 2 months ago. Probably sometime in early November, I think it was. That's the last I can recall of it. It's not something that I pursue a lot. I've just got, we got so many hours a day and you just focus on what you think you need to focus on. But I know that they were gathering people together to try and disturb the construction crew by setting them on fire. Oh, no, I just added that last bit in. That was completely not true. But they were trying to stop them, in some way or another. I don't know, fast-setting cement or something, sarcasm. Things like that, harsh language. I've no idea. But yeah, they were building one near a school, and so people were rightly objecting to all that nonsense.
Do you remember The Prisoner with Patrick, whatever his name was?
McNee.
The original one, where they were all in this lovely sort of area, and they set out, there's this sound, and everybody stopped. Ooh, and I think because Patrick McNee wrote those. No, it wasn't Patrick McNee, wasn't it? It was another Patrick.
Patrick McGowan.
McGowan,
Patrick McGowan.
Yeah, that wasn't
sorry.
Patrick McNee was the Avengers. He was the nudist, wasn't he? That's what he did in his spare time.
I knew you'd work something nude in there. I've no idea, but I know that now. Yeah.
Yes,
and nude and farting.
Yes, that's it. Nudity and farting.
A bit German now. Nude and farting.
But no, and there was one of his episodes, because I like that program when they had the second run, and everybody staying still, and it was like towers they had that was sending out these signals. Because Patrick McGowan, I think he was a visionary. He was looking into the future. Because when you think about it, what we've been through the last 4 years, that was a little bit like that place that he was sent to, wasn't it? Everybody, it's a bit like the elephant in the room that everybody's trying to avoid. They were prisoners, but they didn't want to see that they were prisoners.
Yeah.
But regarding the tarot show, we got here Louise. I'm not sure how it's going to go, actually. Tarot's not for me. It's another cult. Each to their own, though. Okay. And Barefoot Foreign just says, Louise, a lot are listening to demonic entities. That's what I'm frightened of, actually. Others are tapping into beautiful higher consciousness. Well,
I think you've got to accept, mate. That's going to be a divisive show. You're going to have some.
It's going to be controversial.
Yeah, some people aren't going to want to have anything to do with it, and other people will be really interested. It's one of those topics I think that's quite. I'm on the fence, mate. I honestly don't know with tarot. I don't know enough about it. I mean, Ouija. I messed around with Ouija boards in the vicar's house when we were 14, 15 years old.
Bloody hell!
I'd never met. Yeah, I told you about our local vicar before.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
48 cans of Fosters, 200 Benson and Hedges, and a load of multi-packs of Skips in every Friday afternoon, in the knowledge that the 5 teenage lads that lived in the village would come for the free booze, the fags, and the crisps. And he also used to have a massive stash of porn upstairs in one of his spare bedrooms. It was proper seedy, mate. We used to stay there till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then just go home shit-faced drunk. And I lived in a bungalow, mate, so I could climb in and out my bedroom window. It was perfect. But he went for one of us one time. It only ever happened once. We told him if he ever did it again that we'd chop him up into pieces. But he did go for one of the youngest lad, a lad that he had christened Blossom.
Christened? Sorry, christened what? I missed that.
He called him Blossom. This lad. I'm not going to say his name, but this young lad, the vicar. I mean, the vicar. He's dead, long dead now, mate. I mean, this was in my childhood.
I'm having a hard time hearing Chris. By the way,
really?
I've adjusted the sound, but I don't know quite what's going on.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, it's strange. But apparently,
here's one just on the Ouija board front. I'm going to throw something out there. So when I was about 13, 14-year-old, I went to my sister's house and I said to my niece, I said, "Do you want to do a Ouija board?" And she said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's just rudimentary example." Anyway, so we kind of drew one on a piece of paper and got one of these little egg cup things. Turn the lights down and all that stuff. And we did this little, this experiment on this, Ouija board that we just decided to draw. Anyway, nothing happened. There was no movement or anything. And so we thought nothing of it. A couple of weeks after that, my sister started getting pinned to the bed. This whole, I forgot the bloody word, where you're asleep and you can't move. Anyway. Come back to that. But she started getting pinned to the bed. Now, she didn't know that we'd done this Ouija board, this mock-up Ouija board. Anyway, so things started getting stranger and stranger in the house. I'm thinking, oh, shit, what have I done here? Within the year, basically the neighbours that lived next door to her, they had a bit of a falling out. Anyway, one of the nights, the police were looking for him, and he was hiding out in the woods out the back, and he murdered her. So I don't know whether that's like a massive coincidence or anything, but it's.
Mate, I think it's a force Ouija, definitely. I'm not putting tarot in the same bracket as Ouija.
Yeah, I won't touch Ouija. No, and Ouija boards, not now.
You're opening a door to something that potentially you know nothing about.
Yeah, I agree.
Just interestingly, and I'm pretty sure that you'll probably or potentially have sympathy with it. I think that's what CERN's all about, mate. Is about opening portals.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that's the whole purpose of that facility is opening up areas, other dimensions, and things like that.
This is the thing. I mean, sorry, Chris. No, I've actually asked people who do Ouija boards on a regular basis. They call it a spirit board. No, well, they've actually been on this show, and they're lovely people. You know, I've got no problem with them. But I asked them once. I said, "Do you actually know what you're dealing with?" And they said, "Oh no, we just communicate with it." I said, "Well, how do you know that whatever you're communicating is being honest with you? How do you know it's not demonic?" "No, it's nothing like that." I said, "Yeah, but you don't know that." I said, "I've asked you honestly. What is it? What are you dealing with? You don't know." And if you don't know and something's connecting with you, again, I won't touch one after that experience I had at my sister's all those years. And I was only a daft kid, you know, messing around. Maybe it was completely unrelated, but it was weird enough that I won't touch one again. But yeah, it's an interesting thing there, Chris, when you said we don't know what messing with. We don't.
That's right. I am very aware of, you might think I'm bonkers, but I do believe
you are
spirits. I am bonkers.
Certifiable.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
Good,
and
it's all good.
I've actually seen them. I call it infest people, and it's not. It's frightening. It really is. Now I do think there's like the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, and we got to fight against the bad all the time. I mean, have you noticed atmospheres when you walk into places?
Yeah.
And I haven't been in
little
there.
where we are has got it's like I've interrupted again. Sorry, I've got a verbal diarrhea now, Chris.
Not at all. No. Carry on.
So we've got a little now. Funnily enough, where it's based, there is a load of, let's say, poles that we were on about earlier with a number attached to it, and it's like you can walk through the shop and everything's fine. You can have a, you know, it's quite pleasant until you get to just before the checkout. And everyone gets cantankerous, and you could say, "Oh, that's because it's busy and people don't like." No, it's an instant. People switch, and I've observed it every time. I thought, what is it about that particular part of the supermarket that just switches people from being nice to, I don't know, triggered or antagonistic? It's bizarre the way it works. So there you go. There's a random piece of useless information for you.
The one with me is the Dominion in Tottenham Court Road. Now, I worked in London for many years, and when I walked down Tottenham Court Road, I'd cross the road not to walk past it. I don't know why. Something I just didn't like about the place. I've recently found out, well, I say recently, in the last couple of years, there was some secret papers released from World War II. They were torture chambers behind the Dominion Tottenham Court Road, and I'm wondering whether that was what I was sensing, the evil that was there, because they tortured German prisoners behind the Dominion Tottenham Court Road. So yes, we're nice chaps, weren't we, during World War II? You know, we
totally.
things. There, we wouldn't torture people, would we? Did you know that, Paul?
Though, Chris, now haven't we? I mean, we're perfect now, aren't we?
Oh, crumbs! Do you know that, Paul?
I've heard you mention it before, Eric. Yeah. I'm aware of that. Yeah,
that's it. But what's your view of tarot and Ouija boards and things like that, Paul?
Not for me. Not for me. I think the Ouija stuff's mad, and people that say they don't believe in a spiritual world, just ask them if it's okay if you take your children and play Ouija with them. They'll soon find out that they do. It's very, very strong instinct with people to leave it well be. And so from that point of view, it's useful. From that point of view, it's useful to indicate there are other realms, and people, you know, at least need to be conscious that there are other realms other than this one. But you don't want to go into that one.
It's somewhat more sinister than that, though, when you find them being sold in toy shops and certain online massive enterprises, you know, and they're just available for kids as if they're just toys to be messed with. And I agree with Christy Gardner on this one. I think that whatever the hell they're doing at CERN, I don't think it's all a massive cover-up. I think some of the stuff is legitimate scientific experiments, whatever. But I definitely think there's some kind of portal being opened, or they're dabbling with something that something along.
Why have they got a massive statue of Shiva out the front?
God of death,
destruction. Yeah, it does the dance of destruction.
Yeah.
Why is there a big statue of Shiva out the front? There's all kinds of whys. Why do they put out these weird, ritualistic, satanic videos with these dancing and theatre that can only be described as, at best, it's weird. At worst, it's satanic and ritualistic. Some kind of ceremony going on, most likely there. So. Yeah, I think the whole place is it smells quite fishy. My gut tells me that there's something very sinister.
I think they're messing with. This is going to sound bizarre. I think they're somehow creating multiple realities and messing with them. You know the whole Mandela effect stuff. Yeah. No, I actually put a fair bit of credence into that. I think there's something to it. And
possibly.
It seems to have happened. It seems to have ramped up a lot since CERN. I'm not saying that CERN is the trigger or the cause of it. It might just be nothing to do with it whatsoever. But I don't know. I think they're messing with reality somehow. But then doesn't that just suggest that we are actually in some kind of simulated reality if they can do it? Again, this is all conjecture. I don't know the answers here, but it's an interesting idea.
I'd buy the reality theory. To me, if anything makes sense, that makes the most sense to me. Who knows?
To me as well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know that World War II was fought on the spiritual side. There was witchcraft being used in this country against Germany. And I believe it goes even bigger, because if you look at Dennis's films, what was that one, Paul? It was the Masonic victory of World War II, something like that. It shows you there's something very strange with the Pentagon, because the Pentagon was finished on 9/11. No, I think it was 1941 or 42, one of those two. I'll have to look it up. But
you told me 41 earlier today.
41.
I think it's 41. Yeah, 41.
September 11th, 1941.
Isn't that weird?
Before that iconic event in New York, isn't that strange?
And Russia had the worst winter that year after it was set up than ever before. They never had a winter as bad as that. Isn't that strange? Weird.
Can we just highlight Paul's comment there? Sorry to the Paul, the bus Paul. He's just made an interesting comment. If we could just pull it up a sec.
Certainly. Where is it? Where is he? Right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom. I think it is.
That's
that
it,
one.
Yes.
That one. Yeah.
I've watched 3 interviews with people about Freemasonry, and they use Ouija boards and tarot cards. And the interviewee talks about how they use these sinister objects. My word, the mind boggles. Really?
They're rumbled a lot, the Masons.
Well, my thought about all of this stuff is that the people that go to casinos are essentially doing the same thing. If you think about it, the fortune telling and telling the future, that sort of thing goes on. And if you go to certain places, the playing cards take the place of tarot cards in the way people treat them. You go to, when I was in Russia, there were people that wanted to tell my future based on playing cards, and I had said, no, thank you. But it was quite common.
The lineage between the tarot and the playing cards, it's directly linked through Jewish tradition in Western Europe and Spain through the Middle Ages. They're linked. They come from one another. There's a lot of secret messages hidden in just a regular deck of playing cards. They're as esoteric as it gets. Just to add a little bit of context on that one. So sorry to interrupt again, mate.
No, I think that future through numerology is very interesting, because that's more of a scientific look at it from numerology point of view, because you're not really dealing with any entities as such. You're just looking at the mathematics of it. And Barnes Wallis, who invented or devised the bouncing bomb, he was very much into numerology, and I think there's something in it, because we are ruled by numbers. What's your view on that, Paul and Patrick? How do you feel about numerology?
I'm thick as 2 short planks on it. I've never had any interest in it at all. How about that?
And what about you, Patrick? And,
Like I was talking about yesterday evening, I think there are people that take it seriously, but I'm not one of them that looks into it. And yet at the same time, I think there are people that are, pretending to rule over us that use that sort of thing.
Well, interesting.
You can see it in the things they do in the movies and literature and media in general, but I stay away from it. I don't have any interest in it. I think it's just madness when it comes down to it. It'll just drive you crazy if you sit and try and read into every little thing. It's like the gematria stuff. You'll go mad studying that, or the Kabbalah, or any of those things.
Well, Paul said,
I don't know. I mean, Kabbalah can be a really sorry, Chris. Kabbalah can be a really beautiful subject, because I mean, it's kind of, it looks at the relationship between God, as in not necessarily biblical God. I mean, God, the creator of all things, and how that kind of creative energy comes down into the physical form, and then we reciprocate back up through the tree of life. It's I like it. It's in its most pure form. I don't see anything evil with it at all, but I think it's when people start dabbling in sort of like the darker aspects of it that they can take advantage of it and manipulate it. And but again, I don't touch any of that. So sorry to interrupt again there, Patrick.
No, that's okay. But Paul has said that CERN shall we say, bus Paul, CERN is believed to have links to the angel of the bottomless pit. We also had Pope Francis opening 5 portals, and Ricardo said, "Paul Bus guy, you're bang on," and Louise Wilcox said, "Masons is massive numbers round here." So
my mum's second husband, my stepfather, brought me up for 7 years between 12 and 19. He was the worshipful master of the lodge that meets in the secret rooms in the Duke's Head Hotel in King's Lynn, and he was also worshipful master of a lodge in London, the Old Bancroftians Lodge, and he told me on many occasions that Masons ran the world. And when I had a bit of an issue when I was 18, not long after I passed my driving test, and I gave a couple of local police officers some lip when they pulled me out for a brake light, pulled me over for a brake light that was out, and then they just kept pulling me over like night after night for the fun of it. And I basically told him about it, and he drove to the local police station in King's Lynn. He parked his car in the bay out the front that said reserved for police vehicles only. He walked in and demanded to speak to the chief inspector, and they laughed at him at first. And then he gave them the guy's name, and he told them to ring him and tell him that the worshipful master was there to see him. This chap came downstairs with his tail between his legs. Him and my stepdad went into a private room for 15 minutes, and I never got pulled over in that car again, ever again after that. Never, not once, by anyone. And I don't know what he said in that room. All I know is that those cops weren't sitting in that lay-by waiting for me ever again. And I believe that a lot of what he said was true, that Masons probably do have a lot of clout, certainly within the police.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right, Louise. I think that around here, you got Sandringham, mate. I live next door to Sandringham Estate. Like they literally, one of my customers' back gardens, we walk through the back of his garden and we're on Sandringham Estate. That's how close it is. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all that there's all kinds of weirdness that happens around here.
Have you practiced sort of the Queen's wave and the royalty type thing? Because Prince Philip used to do what I used to call the triple condescension. He would walk into a room, state the obvious, ask the question, then answer it all in one sentence. So he'd come along, and supposing he saw you, say, "So you're Chris the gardener?" Stating the obvious, ask the question, "Are you?" "I see," and then answers it. So he says, stating the obvious, ask the question and answer it all in one sentence. Do you find that with the late Prince Philip? And a lot of the royals do that.
Once, mate. He come charging through Dersingham with a carriage and 4 horses one afternoon, yelling at people to get out the bloody way.
Yeah.
But that's the only time I ever saw him in the time that we've lived here, but they're out and about. I mean, they're spotted around the village all the time. The Queen was head of the Dersingham WI, mate, until she popped her clogs, and she used to go to their annual meeting every year in the village hall.
Really? Do you see any of the sons, dubbing their cigarette end out on the pavement or something like that, or walking along a sort of
no, not so much,
eating their
mate.
fish and chips?
They don't tend to congregate in the public areas. They've got a big walled-off bit that they like to go. You do quite often see them on the Boxing Day shoot. They have a big shoot on Boxing Day. It's a big event, and they quite often, you might catch sight of them blasting the hell out of everything.
Grouse shooting.
They're about. You're more likely to see the Royal Protection Range Rovers driving around, mate. You see them a lot.
Yes.
So for a tiny little village, you get a lot of police in Dersingham. So
now, Ricardo has said the Pope opened a door that was closed 1999, opened 2024, December the 24th.
He may well have done. That's another seedy place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, Paul, come on, or Patrick, what do you think about the Vatican? Come on, what's going on there?
Well, since I'm a Catholic, I can kind of answer that. Every 25 years they have what's known as a Jubilee year, and they have these doors sealed up throughout the rest of the years, and they brick them up, and then they open them up on that day. And it's supposed to be a year to forgive debts, like that was written about in the Old Testament, where every 50 years it was that you would forgive all of your debts, and everyone was expected to do the same. And I think it's a way to remind people that there needs to be some sort of debt forgiveness, and a way to counteract usury, which is just detrimental to any culture. But that's my 2 cents on the matter.
That's interesting, Patrick. So when you say are you a practicing Catholic, my friend?
Yes.
And in terms of like the would you? I mean, I don't want to offend you here, mate. This isn't my intention.
No, don't worry about it.
My belief is there's some dodgy stuff goes on at the Vatican, and that there's some things buried under the ground there that potentially could change humanity if people knew about them. So my question was kind of more, what would be your take as a practicing Catholic on my opinion there? I mean, by all means, tell me I'm wrong and shoot me down in flames, mate. I know what I know, mate. I could write on the back of a postage stamp. So these are just my opinions. But what's your take on that, sir? As somebody who is engaged in that particular religion, would you have any kind of sympathy with that opinion, or do you think I'm just a lunatic?
As far as like things being hidden in the Vatican archives type of deal?
Yeah. Potentially documents that might answer questions that we all want.
I think there are. I think there are to a certain extent, especially in recent times. World War II is an example of this, because there's this notion that Pope Pius XII was this evil pope that connived with Hitler to exterminate the Jews, and then there are the other sides of the Catholics that say, no, he was helping the Jews and all this kind of stuff. There are things like that really need to be looked into more, and I've been looking into it as much as I can, and I as far as YouTube is concerned, I probably can't go into a lot of it, because it's some of the stuff is pretty should you say, you're dealing with the occult type scenario when they're investigating what's going on in certain places. Like Galatia during the lead up to World War II was a place where they were getting lots of reports of some crazy stuff that was going on in that area prior to the war. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to look into that, but part of it is just learning the language too, because there's a language barrier there for sure. Italian and that sort of thing, and other languages, because it's a universal church. There's the Catholic churches throughout the world, and they all speak different languages. Bishops like here in America, we have the American bishops, and they're different than the European bishops or the African bishops. It's
also, Patrick, I've heard that. Sorry, I didn't mean to chime in on you there.
No, go ahead.
But the latest pope. Now, I haven't heard this personally myself, but I have heard that he's been speaking out against usury. Do you know any more?
Yeah,
about
he
that?
has. He's going quite often, you know, and it doesn't get coverage because nobody pays attention to it because it's not, you know, the bankers control the media. Why would they want to expose their scheme where they're making out like bandits? Why would you want to do something that could harm the central bank and its usury scam that it plays on people? But yeah, he has talked about it since he came in office, in 2013, multiple times, but it never gets mentioned. It just kind of gets buried. And you don't speak Italian, so what do you know? Most English people don't know about this stuff because they don't follow it.
Now, we got here a 6-blade. Now, I wonder who that could be.
Hi, Steve.
We let his identity slip. Incidentally, Madeline,
Yeah,
and he's now at a secret location, Steve, of 32 Madison Avenue. And incidentally, Madeline McCain is 666 in gematria and has the very occult MM initials. And also, a little plug for your book, and that when is your playing card talk, Nathan Lucius?
All right, I'll give this a little plug. So if anyone's interested, they're going to have to get in touch with Steve, unfortunately, because he's kind of organised it. But it's the 24th of January, and we'll be doing multiple presentations. Well, there's a presentation each on the night. That's up in Gosforth. I often get Gosforth and Blythe the wrong way around. Gosforth. I'm pretty sure it's Gosforth. Yeah, he'll slap me on the wrist when he sees me. But yeah, it was originally supposed to be a Christmas presentation that got a bit delayed. So now it's like a seasonal multiple presentation that involves the occult symbolism behind playing cards and Christmas and the different holy days, the holidays. So it's an interesting one. I'm still working on a presentation though. So that's in answer to that one. There you go. And thanks for plugging the book again, Chris. Cheers, mate.
It's in the book, but it's this fake awake, because I think what we're getting at is the truth movement, if you want to call it that, has been infiltrated without physical infiltration by people actually going into it, but by being done on social media. And I think that's what you're really getting at, is that, I mean, I've noticed this as well. They haven't because years ago they'd have to physically get an insider to come along and infiltrate these organisations. That's what happened in 1918, 1919, or the early 20s in this country, when militant groups started up after the First World War, who were a little bit cheesed off with fighting for 4 years in a war and promised a land full of milk and honey when they came back to absolute dire poverty. And they were destroyed by physical infiltration. They don't have to do that now because it's done on the media. So
yeah, you're right.
Smartphones alone will give it away. If you've got that thing, if you've got social media on it and Google and stuff like that, it's recording you, it's picking up everything. It's got trigger words that activate. Mate, everyone's carrying their own little spy device around with them, and it's no use.
That's right.
What you're going to do, live without it? You can't.
Well, Patrick,
you can't do banking and stuff, you know. So it's sorry, mate.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there, but Patrick, Paul, you closed the show last night perfectly because we had this problem, and it's very strange. I'm 50-50 whether it was the powers that be listening in pulling the plug, or it's just Rumble's crappy software. I don't know. I think we'll never know. It's a bit strange though, Patrick, wasn't it?
I'll put it down to Rumble.
Yeah.
Could have been.
I mean,
yeah.
Yes. Now we got here. Barefoot Forager says numerology is mind blowing. Everyone should know their life path number and 4 other numbers that form the blueprint of our lives. And then we've got 6-blade, and it's Steve does not want to have his revealed who 6-blade is. Oh shit! And Tarot, Torah, Rota, the cycle of the heavens. That's interesting because there was a film Torah, which was about Pearl Harbor. 22 cards in major Asena, 22
Arcana.
letters. Arcana, sorry. 22
Arcana,
letters in Hebrew alphabet. I didn't know that. 22 piles of Kabbalistic tree. 22 bones in skull. 22 the master builder number. Hence 22 SAS. Secret Air Services, I think that's called. Yes. Interesting. And,
just to give Steve his credit, actually, and Paul, to the Paul. Sorry, no offense to the Paul that's with us. Bus Paul, Paul and Steve, your knowledge on the occult numerology is absolutely top. To pair you, it's fantastic.
CERN and WF. Sorry, is the distance 6.66 miles? Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, what a coincidence, Nathan. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wasn't it in the city of London that they actually judge what a mile is?
Well, this is
the way they came up with the mile is completely arbitrary. It's like from some point in London to another point in London.
That would make sense, Patrick. Yeah, a lot comes out of London.
They got a yardstick there, haven't they? Where they know what an exact yard is. There was the Victorians made it. I think it was made of brass, wasn't it? Where it was an actual yard, which was we don't use. Well, we don't use that now, do we? Yard. I still use feet and inches, believe it or not. And it's very strange that America sticks with feet and inches, even though a lot of Americans use metric because it's easier.
We still use imperial quite a lot.
Yeah.
I was taught in metric, but I use feet and inches whenever I measure anything, whenever I'm doing anything, I measure in feet and inches. But I was educated with metric.
Well, they say a rule of thumb. My thumb is 1 inch, so whenever I measure something, I do that. I think, oh, that's why that bit there. Sorry, that bit there between there and there is 1 inch. So I always have
perfect.
Or 25 millimeters. But now we've got. Oh, hang on. Paul said here. Pope Francis opened 5 portals 88 years and 8 days after the Pope was born. Beast symbol is equals 888. Satanic ritual 888. Freemasons 888. The Cynical of Satan 888. Well, and we've got here Barefoot Foreigner said, did a ghost hunt charity night in a Masonic lodge many years ago before I was awake. The stuff in that basement was bad. Interesting.
So like what though? Bad how? What was it? Like what was the... Be curious to know a bit more about that.
Yes, that's interesting.
I'm interested in what Louise says. Is that at Sandringham, Louise?
Now, what's it?
Louise lives only up the road from us, so...
Hereditary Skeptic says Welsh. Well, I thought the Welshes were diarrhea. Sorry, it's terrible, isn't it? I've had a touch of the Welsh.
You've offended everyone tonight, mate.
Well, pissed the Welsh off, haven't I? Oh, he's got the diarrhea. Japanese. Oh. Well, we was saying about French because when I was at school, you had a choice of languages to learn. It was French, or French. You didn't have a choice, and we were taught French by a Cockney. Would you believe? And she, call blimey, s'il vous plaît. Like, so you go to France, you go, parlez-vous français? What the bloody hell is he talking about?
It's London French.
London French, yeah, Cockney French. There we are. Now, Louise says, now you might be able to question on this. The Vatican believes they own all our souls. I don't know if this is true, as they hold the blood of everyone of us. I thought that was the who are those people in suits? Osmonds, I remember of them. But my soul was never Mormons. I thought they did that.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I know they're supposed to know everybody, but my soul was never for sale, and my parents had no right to give it away.
This is the thing with sovereignty, though, isn't it? Unless it's consensual, fully informed, and it's freely given, that's not consent. So how can they own something that's never consented, isn't fully informed, and isn't compliant with it? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, they've assumed this. So is it a fear tactic? I mean, look at the papal bulls, for example. I mean, apparently, once they've stamped the papal bull into existence, that's kind of their law. They seem to think that seals the deal with Yahweh, their God, right? So it's kind of And again, no offense to any Catholics listening, especially to you, Patrick, but I mean, the Catholic Church and the Vatican especially, there's something really sinister going on, for my personal opinion.
But there's a lot of good that comes out, because Catholic schools are very, very good schools.
Well, it's got a lot of good architecture as well.
Yeah. But anyone want to talk on usury? Yes. The square mile Londinium, etc. No one talks about it. Can't think why. Well, yes, because it's the elephant in the room that we're not allowed to notice, isn't it? Because I think Paul, once we start him off talking about usury, I think...
I won't talk about it. Don't worry. I was actually still stuck on the mile thing. I was just going off. I did a bit, Yeah, well, it's just interesting. It's all quite well connected. It says... I'm at a site called Mental Floss. Excuse me. The basic concept of the mile originated in Roman times. The Romans used a unit of distance called the mille passum, M-I-L-L-E, as in the word for 1,000, right? So this is where mile comes from, which literally translated into 1,000 paces, because each pace was considered to be 5 Roman feet, which were a bit shorter than our modern feet. The mile ended up being 5,000 Roman feet, or roughly 4,850 of our modern feet. Fascinating, isn't it? And it says, if the mile originated with 5,000 Roman feet, how do we end up with a mile that is 5,280 feet? Blame the furlong. Bloody furlongs. I knew it'd be the furlong. Yeah, I knew it. That bloody furlong. The furlong wasn't always just an arcane unit of measure that horse racing fans gabbed about. It once had significance as the length of the furrow a team of oxen could plough in a day. In 1592, the English Parliament set about determining the length of the mile and decided that each one should be made up of 8 furlongs. As a furlong was 660 feet, we ended up with a 5,208-foot mile. So now you know. It is. It's cool, that, isn't it?
No, it's very interesting. Yeah. Thanks for that. And we've got here Barefoot Fondra says, my mate. Now, this is something I want to ask Patrick about, because where is that bloody useless Prime Minister we had, female? What was her name? Before...
Not Theresa May. Yeah, I know you're on about, because we were talking about this the other night.
Yeah,
was it Theresa May?
Theresa May, yeah. Because her father was a Catholic minister, but was married. I couldn't work that one out.
Well, they used to be, mate. It wasn't until, when was it that the Pope decided they had to take a vow of celibacy? Was it in the 60s? Mate, there was, up until a point, priests could be married. It was only within the last 3 or 4 decades of the last century that changed. Yes. Yeah, it was Pope, whatever. Come on, Paul, do your internet Google thing and find out, mate. I'm pretty sure that up until the 1960s, that popes priests were able to marry. It was one of the popes that shifted the goalposts, maybe in the 60s. Somebody tell me.
1139.
Was it really? What,
it says here, the Second Lateran Council, 1139, made celibacy mandatory for future priests in the Western Church. 1139.
Really?
So there you go.
I'm wrongly informed then. I thought that in certain countries, certain priests were still able to get married up until quite recently. So
I'm having just so you all know, I'm having a hard time hearing both Chris's, but I think the subject is about priests getting married, and typically so the Catholic priests, and the way that the Church teaches this, even in the Eastern churches like in Russia and other places, is that once a priest is a priest, he can no longer get married, even if he's married, because it's allowed in the East, particularly they do this, where they're able to be married and become priests as long and the marriage follows them into that. But once their spouse dies, then they're to be celibate after that point, after they're ordained a priest.
Right.
So like Barefoot Forager's mentioning an ex-Catholic priest that became married, more or less. But then at that point they're considered laicized priests, and they're, it's kind of like outlaws in a way, but they're no longer employed as priests.
That's interesting because Theresa May's
and they're
father,
not allowed to do that. I mean, that's the point, and it's considered an invalid marriage at that point.
Right. What does anybody? What's the logic behind the celibacy? I mean,
I was just thinking that, actually,
because then you don't have the intrigue of children. The vicar's child. Then getting land and property as a consequence of his position in the church. It's
right.
I think the fact that they don't do it solves a lot of problems. You don't have to worry about the priest running off.
Create problems of its own, though, Patrick.
How so?
Like going for the wrong, let's say, target audience instead of doing things the natural way. Perhaps is that what you mean?
I'm thinking of some, some people perhaps who are priests but don't necessarily adhere to that particular vow, or they do alternative things. I don't want to say too much. We're on YouTube, mate, and I don't want to be crude, but I think perhaps you might get the drift that I'm going into. Something that is renowned not just among Catholic priests, my friend, because the priest that I was involved with when I was a teenager, he was an Anglican priest, and he was a wrong un. But do you get what I'm saying, Patrick? Or I'm not trying to offend, but do you understand the point that I'm trying to make?
Yeah, I understand that. You get the effeminate type is I think a polite way to put it.
With an interest in younger, perhaps, people.
Could very well be, because most of them are interested in that. So it's it's a topic that definitely has had a consequence, especially since the 60s and the sexual liberation and just the culture in general.
There was definitely a culture, wasn't there, within the Catholic Church of trying to hide that particular, that behaviour. That it, to my mind, doesn't do the Catholic Church any credit.
Yeah, but
at the same time, what about the fact that they're some of the most vocal opponents of it?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I'm not trying to tarnish everyone with the same brush.
Every religion has wrong-uns. Let's put it this way.
Exactly.
Every organisation has dirty washing.
Every group of people, Chris, has wrong-uns.
I just see as an institution. I'm talking about as an institution. It's been one of the few vocal institutions against all of this that can call themselves Christians, because there are very few that have that kind of clout where they can speak out against the type of marriage that doesn't include one man and one woman, because once you start doing that, you're in evil territory, I think, and a destructive territory to society in general. And as an institution, I think it's a good thing because it protects society from that. And there's very few that actually are doing that. Especially among Christians. You see so many of these other, Anglicans, since you're where you're at, Anglicans, it's like anybody can become one now, a priest or a bishop or whatever it is. It's like any person, no matter their sex or their proclivity to effeminacy or whatever it is you want to put it.
Sorry to interrupt. I just think that the problem that I think I'm on the same page as Chris the Gardener on this one is that if you block natural urges, then by default you're going to still have those urges. But
I don't know. I think it's quite easy for some people to be celibate after a certain point of time, that they can discipline themselves and do it. I admire people.
It gets easier as you get older. Definitely, you become less bothered and less interested. There's no
speak
doubt
for yourself.
About that. Yeah, I'm probably. How old are you, Nathan?
Well,
oh Christ, here we go, 44.
Right, well, I've got a few years on you, mate. So, but definitely,
you're doing well on it. I'll tell you that. So there you go.
It becomes less important, I think, as you get. Look, I've got a loving marriage, so I'm not going to be graphic, but I even throughout all of Jess's treatment when she lost her hair, we still maintained a loving marriage because she's my wife. I adore her. and I wasn't going to stop having a loving marriage just because some part of her physical appearance had changed. So I'm not saying it's not important. I think that it's a bond that only me and her share, and that's a special thing. And it's a nice way, it's nice to express your love for each other.
The way I look at it is, there's certain people that are leaders in society and are called to a higher calling than just a normal life, go into a job and that kind of thing. There are people that are called to a higher thing, and I commend it.
Yeah,
and I think we need more people like that.
It's not for me, but at the same time, if that's the way somebody wants to live their life, they're not hurting me, they're not hurting anyone else. Crack on. That's not a problem as far as I'm concerned.
One thing that is of it, I mean, I was brought up C of E, Church of England, and when you look at it, Church of England came from Henry VIII because he wanted a divorce. But then, looking on it from another point of view, I know that the Catholic Church is very much more for community, because a girl that I once knew, she actually had a friend that went to the Catholic Church, and she asked to come along, and she was amazed that there were nuns and that actually made food for the poor, and they knew the people, they helped the people, and it was all very community orientated, which is something that C of E doesn't seem to have. It seems to be very cold. I don't know,
Chris. I think again, that's a generalisation, my friend. Mm. There are probably certain elements within the C of E that are equally as welcome.
Yeah, they're charities. Even we were talking about the Masons. They have hospitals and all that kind of thing too. I mean, there are charitable organizations, but as far as people who devote themselves to Christ and to celibate life and that sort of thing, take vows of obedience and poverty, it's a little bit different circumstance. And I don't know, there's some Anglicans that are more high church Anglicans that are probably closer to Catholics than the run-of-the-mill Anglican. I don't know. I can't judge. Of course, you're generalizing. That's right. Things. But that's how do we do anything if we can't generalize? How can we talk about?
Of course, mate. But I just make the point that within any large organisation, you're going to come across different types of people. Some that perhaps in some areas are more hospitable and do more than perhaps where there's a more apathetic sort of like relationship to the religion, where they go along once a week, sing their songs, and then as far as they're concerned, they've done their bit and they come home. They perhaps don't embrace it. My experience of not all, but some deeply religious people that I've known is that they're the biggest hypocrites that I've ever met. That's Absolutely. Just my experience, And again, I don't. My uncle Eric, he was a deeply religious man. He was a lay preacher. He was a beautiful man. He lived for the church, and he was one of the most incredible people I've ever known in my life. He died of cancer when he was 52 years old. Bless him. But the point I make is, I would never generalize one group of people are all this or they're all that. I think there's factions, isn't there, and differences within any group of people.
Changing the sorry.
Can I just one thing, because when we were talking earlier, like why do they choose to like a life of celibacy, and so I can fill that in with a little bit of esoteric symbolism, which is to do with, obviously, there's if you look at what I refer to as esoteric Christianity, which is very, very underrated, by the way. It's all about the chrism process and kundalini and purity of your natural oils and things like that. The essence of the chrism is based on purity, which because there's the sexual oils are part of that process of enlightenment. That's why a lot of priests in a lot of different religions, not just Christianity, they choose to abstain from certain foods like meat, sexual activity of any kind of drugs, poisons, alcohols, toxins, things like that, because they're trying to aspire to a Christ consciousness. They're trying to trigger the mechanism. So I'm wondering if that's pretty much the underlying reason for the Catholic priesthood also choosing to do that. The tonsure, I think that's all right. The the haircut where it's kind of bald at the back. Am I saying that right, Patrick? Oh, that was interesting. Tonsa?
That was Barclay dropping a bone. But
right.
Okay.
But that's to do with oil. So that's oil. That's supposed to be like from what I've been told. That's you kind of christen them. I don't think that's the right word, but there's an oil because it's linked to the pineal gland, the third eye, the opening, and so there's a bit of esoteric background as to why the priesthood would abstain from from many things. There's also I think it was Louise Wilcox that said all roads lead back to Rome, which they seem to, especially at the minute. You had the Vestal Virgins who were absolutely forbidden from any kind of sexual activity, which would lead to their death. They'd be essentially buried alive inside a coffin for any transgressions of, So there's that's linked to it because that's also based on purity. Steve would be a good one on this one as well, actually. But there you go. There's just before you went on to another.
That's interesting.
And sorry, there's one more. Louise Wilcox. This one resonated with me something here, right? So her comment at 10:03. Can you pull that one up?
Certainly. I'm just going down to it. Thanks for giving me the time of it. It's 10:03. Here it is. Yeah. Is this the one?
That's the one. Now that I saw that and I just 10 out of 10. Bang on.
That's a good comment, Louise.
Yeah. So I'll read it out just for anyone who's listening and not watching. So if men can change the rules of religion, then how was religion written by a god? I'll rest my case. Just that. It's brilliant. So sorry again, not mean to offend anyone.
Well, I would suggest that they can't.
They can't, yeah.
And I would also suggest they never ever have. I know that you've got all these different factions that say they have, but the minute they do that, they're not the religion. They just immediately stop becoming it. It's a bit like
no, certainly. I know where you're going with that, but what I mean is essentially, I think what Louise is saying there is that if men write the holy books, not God Himself, and so therefore, where is the justification? I know where she's going with it essentially, but I also know what you mean.
My problem is we've got the King James Bible in the UK. I wouldn't trust the King to show me the way to the shop round the corner.
Especially when it was written by a bunch of occultists.
I don't know enough about it, but that's where my suspicion comes into play with any and guys, please, I don't want to offend either of you at all because I respect your right to practice your religion. I applaud the fact that that you have a commitment, because for me, I'm just sailing through the sea rudderless, mate. I haven't got a clue. I'm agnostic. I don't know. I really don't know. And I do think it must be a wonderful thing to be in a spiritual place where you do have a strong belief. So please don't think I'm trying to be offensive in any way, shape or form. But come on, come back to us on that one, Paul or Patrick. How do you feel about that? The fact that we have a King James Bible, is that an interpretation? Is that has that been manipulated over time, or do you believe that to be the pure word of God? You think it's been manipulated, Paul?
No, I know it has.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, they've all been manipulated. But the thing is, I would say, Chris.
There, mate. Sorry, mate. Crack on.
Sorry. No. Excuse me. I think the idea is this is just me. All right, my pitch. I'm not into religion. Right, religions are what happen in our case, in regards to Scripture. So there's a book called the Bible. Used to have this thing in it called the Apocrypha. Still should, really. And it's a book written, according to the description, the inspired word of God through the prophets. You can make of that what you will. We all can, right? But that's how it's described back to us. And it's a book. It's a history book. It's a book of a particular race of people, and it's their law. And the whole narrative from start to finish, from Old Testament right through to the end of the New Testament, is about this law and how it's broken and fulfilled and remade and so on and so forth. Religions have been built around it. So I understand there's over 1,000 flavors of so-called Christian religion. Jolly good. I personally have no interest in that at all. And I just think they're very large hobbies. And the reason that they're hobbies is that they do what that comment was saying. They change the rules. They think they can change the rules of the documents, and they can't.
Which
no one ever
in
has.
The Anglican Church, haven't we? With the I don't know what you call what the word for making somebody a bishop is, but with making women bishops, with having gay ministers, things that traditionally the church would have been against, have now been included into to be okay. I mean, Patrick.
Well, I'm gonna rephrase what you've said. It's interesting you bring that up because I was talking about it with Patrick even the other day. If a religious flavour says women can become priests, the moment it says that, it's stopped being a church.
Right.
It's instantaneously out. You can't do it. Now, then people will say, no, but look, this one over here, the Toffee Nose Church of whatever, or whatever the hell it's called, right, or heaven it's called, they do allow that. I said, well, they don't allow anything. They've immediately just completely removed themselves from the entire field of truth. They've just taken them. It's a bit like saying people of the same sex can get married. They can't. They never, ever have been. Ever. They're not getting married now. The fact that a bunch of men dressed up in rocket suits or whatever, saying that they're priests, do that sort of thing, the minute that they do it, they're no longer priests, it's no longer a church, it's no longer anything, because it's forbidden. So it can't happen, it never has. It's about deceit in the mind of the crowd, always about human control. Oh, we can now change it to suit our agenda. No, you never could, you didn't do it, and you're never going to do it, ever. And it simply requires congregants, obstreperous people like me, to just simply say, you're wasting your time. You're out. Bye. You just left. You just left the very thing that you say you support. You can't have that. There's never been a woman priest ever. I noticed a really funny thing at Christmas. There was a really funny thing. I mentioned it the other day. I still think it's on Christmas Day over here. The current Church of England bloke's legged it, hasn't he? Because, he was covering up for some...
Wellesley,
he was covering up for some pedo or something like that. So, right, they should all go. They're just all... they're a joke, these people. And they need to be vigorously, verbally lambasted as such all the time. The congregants should be just going, get out, really loud. Get out, right? You're nobody. You finished. Because they betrayed the trust that's been put in them. And so they're out. Anyway, they couldn't have he wasn't holding the service, it was held somewhere else, and then they had one on TV
it was in York, wasn't it, Paul?
There was one in York, that's right, but they also had one from Halifax, Minster, also in Yorkshire, right? So I'm watching this. Anyway, it's the person who was heading it up. So the person that was heading it up, the bishop or whatever, was a woman. So I saw this on TV. I immediately burst out laughing at home, going, what a waste of space. And then the co-bishop was someone called Prawama Prabhathan. Oh. That's also completely forbidden. Unless people can understand, this is just me, right? Unless people understand what that document is, it's a racially specific document, which is a series of laws for a specific race of people. If you're not in that race, you're not in the church. Tough.
So, Paul,
you never were.
Question, my friend. Where does this doctrine come from?
It's not a doctrine. It's literally written in the document when you read it correctly. But churches have interpreted it back at congregations with a view to expanding bums on seats. Oh, everybody can come in. It doesn't say that anywhere in the entire edifice of words. There's nothing like that. Jesus does not say, everybody can come and join my church. It's horse shit. You find it to me and I'll read. It's not in there.
Mate, I don't know enough about it, but I will accept that you obviously you know more about, or you've researched this more than me. You know more about it than I do, and I'll accept that this is your belief, and please don't think that was being patronising. I wasn't. My point is,
it's not. Friend, listen, I know exactly what you mean, Chris. But the thing, listen, the question before us all is this. Just hold on. The question before us, and it's not just with regard to this book, but with any book, is this: can it be read? Can we understand the definition of the words so that when we get to the end of it, we understood precisely what was being communicated? That's the challenge.
Right.
And if you look at religion, it's obviously a challenge that is failed at again and again and again. People go, no, it means this. No, it means that. Right, let's have a war. Make it 100 years. Okay, you're on.
Right.
It's
just to interject while you're saying that, just for Chris, comment from Paul, 11 minutes past 10. Just while Paul in our chat is talking, just carry on, mate, because that's what it does.
Definitely,
sorry, mate.
It's been used for that purpose. That doesn't mean that I necessarily believe that there isn't some basis. Like I say, as far as I've been I was an atheist for years and years and years, and I'm not an atheist now. I think that's a really foolish kind of thing to think that there's nothing. There's got to be something, in my opinion. But I don't have any clue as to what that something is, where that power resides, what the purpose. I have opinions and I have feelings in my gut, and I have a relationship with God. It's a relationship between me and God, and we do have a relationship. There's no doubt about that. But what that is that I have a relationship with, whether it's an energy, a higher consciousness, whether it's the fact that it's myself that I'm having, I don't know, but there's definitely something there that I have a relationship with. In terms of there's nothing in religion that makes me think, and again, please don't take offense, but there's nothing that makes me think that I want to drop everything and be a part of that. That to me,
me too. I'm exactly the same, Chris. I'm not part of it because I think the religions they're like fan clubs. They're human-made things that happen, right? Yeah. Now, maybe from a certain perspective, it's understandable why they happen, but when Paul writes here, religion is used to divide and conquer, invariably it will always hit that point. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not aware of any that don't. Because they become...
They all do, even the ones that claim to be peaceful religions, Buddhism, Taoism.
That's right.
They all divide and they all turn on each other. They all have internal conflicts. Yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. All of them.
Patrick, what you, sorry, Paul. Patrick, I mean, the same question to you as Paul. Where would you particularly think, what's the authority, my friend, for where this information comes from?
God's word.
But in terms of the interpretations, do you think that, like Paul, that they're sort of skew-whiffed and warped, or do you think that specifically maybe the Catholic Church is right in what it preaches? I'm interested, my friend, in how you feel about that.
You were talking about dividing. I would mention that that Jesus said that he came here to divide. He didn't come here to unite. And I think that as far as the church is concerned, it is divided in the sense that it's separate from these other beliefs that are contrary to God's will. So you have the Catholic Church, for instance, is what I believe, and it's separate in the sense that you have what's known as, your participation is determined by baptism, right? It's the second birth that's talked about in the Gospels, and that determines your entrance into the church. And and as far as like race, you read about race in the Bible, the race of Jacob, the race of the different patriarchs, and it is a following in that sense, because you have people rightly calling themselves children of Abraham. Well, what is a child of Abraham? What did Jesus say about that? That God could make stones that are the children of Abraham if he wanted to. He's that powerful. And as far as dividing the way the church looks at things is, there's this phrase in Latin, extra ecclesiam nulla salus. Outside of the church, there is no salvation. And that tells you that if you know that you're to be baptized and you don't follow that, then you're outside of the church. And that's the determination is when you have that choice to be baptized or not, that determines whether you belong to the church. But even when you're baptized, you still have to follow the law of God and his commandments. And he gave out 7 sacraments that Catholics follow, which is baptism, confirmation, the Eucharist, priestly ordination, marriage, and anointing of the sick on their deathbed. Confirmation.
I'm looking through. Sorry to interrupt again. So I'm looking through the comment section here, and there's some fantastic questions in line with what we're discussing here. A couple I'd like to pick up on as well. Actually, the Urban Fox. Can we go to Urban Fox 1023?
1023, going there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one. So just to give an example as to what I think Chris is getting at here, and I agree. And people in chat have mentioned, right? Okay, Galatians. So allegedly written by the Apostle Paul. There is no distinction between Jew and Gentile, slave and free, male and female, for all are one in Christ Jesus. Okay, this was written by a guy 30 years after the crucifixion. And even then, it's debated whether he wrote it or not. So he didn't know Christ personally. He didn't have a conversation with him personally. This is the word of a human being. The thoughts that are being written down by somebody whose work just happens to have been
Paul. You're talking about St. Paul, who was Saul before he changed his name to Paul. And he persecuted the church, the early church, and he was responsible for the first martyr, which was Saint Stephen.
And then he turned on it. Yeah, but
apostles.
Yeah, the reason I've highlighted this, and again, it's not to cause any offense, but this was the hands of a human being. This is not the words of God. So even something like that goes against the Old Testament, right?
Well,
so if you look at the Old Testament,
if you want to put it down to the words of man writing them down, there were witnesses to Christ when he was on earth and what he said, and it was written down by men. Yes, that's true.
I would disagree, but then Sean Hamer, the comment that follows, can we have a look at that one as well? There you go. So this is, and I would say, what about those who came before the church, right? So as much as Paul Hamer's wrote there, what would we do if a solar flare wiped out memories of all these codes and concepts, presumably the biblical concept in Christianity, etc., and all memory was wiped out about it? So then nobody would know. Well, but then I would ask the question: what happens about saving the people's souls who came before that? You know, and I get it. I know the general comebacks to that, but I find all of this really interesting.
That's speculation. It's kind of like looking at the Deagle.com and saying that there's going to be millions that are wiped out, and then we're included in that. I don't know.
By the way, just to clarify, I'm not having a go, Patrick. Nobody in the comment. I'm not having a go. I'm just.
I don't take it personally at all whatsoever.
Isn't it
I didn't invent the religion.
No, but hang on. Isn't it marvelous that we can speak like this? They say, was it always keep away from religion and politics because it winds people up.
But those are the two most interesting things, though.
Exactly.
Right. And we're having an educated talk. Yeah. Nobody's getting upset. Nobody's getting offended. We're just having an exploration. And this is what I like this show to be about. That is, expand our knowledge. Because I get fed up with going onto YouTube and you get someone saying, I don't think, and all this. But no. But Six Blade, this is, we won't mention it's Steve. So, but he goes under Six Blade. So we won't tell people that, will we? If God holds the highest authority, why does everyone still follow the Botsic government? I agree.
Well, because he established a government. That's what I would say to that. As far as real government, there's true government and then there's false government. You got a lot of criminals that are pretending to be government.
How do you determine the one from the other?
Well, if you know right and wrong in your heart, you can know what's right
and
wrong.
There it is. Knowing right and wrong. Yeah. Knowing right and wrong. It goes back to the solution to all of this. Knowing right and wrong. Basic morality. Understanding it and applying it. There's your solution.
That's true.
Nathan, sorry, mate. I've got to cut it.
Yeah, Corey, carry on, mate.
11% battery. I stupidly have agreed to go and do a garden tomorrow, which I've got to be there for 9 o'clock. So I'm going to respectfully bow out now because it is nearly 10:30.
We've got Chris, 2.5 hours.
Chris, sorry. We need to next time we need to boost your mic volume. You've been very quiet this whole time on my end. I can barely hear you. So I we'll have to work on that.
Yeah, I'm a technophobe, mate. I've got my wife's.
That's okay. That's okay.
Which she sets up for me every time we do this. I forward the email that Chris sends me to her, and she sets this up for me. My times of computing were Commodore 64s and Amigas, mate, and that's about as far as well. But it's been, Patrick, it's been lovely to meet you. It really has.
You too. Me as well. You know,
I've enjoyed
my pleasure.
Paul, as always, mate, a pleasure. Nathan,
nice seeing you again, Chris.
Yeah, you too,
and you, mate.
I would love for the five of us to continue this conversation another time, because I've really enjoyed it. It's been enlightening. I've learned a lot. I've really, like I say, felt like it's been a valuable conversation. So
it's fascinating.
Chris, thank you, mate. It's been lovely to be a part of it, mate. I've got to go. We're now down to 10%, and if I give this back to the missus with no battery, my bollocks will be hanging from her ears on little paper clips tomorrow. So we don't want that. So like I said, guys, it's been great. It really has. Thank you all so much, and hopefully I'll speak to you all again soon.
Cheers, Chris. Take care, mate. It's been an honour.
I like this. I think we could probably end on this note. Six says all governments are criminal and morally illegitimate. Government literally means mind control. Yeah, I agree with you that one. Yeah. Yes, and lovely hearings, Jess.
That quote that the one at 10:23, the one from Galatians, which is mentioned quite a bit. I don't have all my notes in front of me, but there is no distinction between Jew and Gentile, slave, and blah blah blah. There's quite a bit of exposition needed on that, for the simple reason that the word Jew and Gentile should not even appear in Scripture. Right? No one is a Gentile. You're not Gentiles. Gentile means an ethnicity, an entire ethnic group of people. We are not individual ethnic groups. You can't be both. And the word Jew didn't even exist until 1400 and odd. These things cause such havoc. And all of them, what I'm going to suggest here, this is a really great example of it, and I can't break it all down because I don't have my notes in front of me, there's a movement towards creating universalism with Scripture, which is in complete contrast to what it is. In other words, all of these things are about including everybody. Come on, you can all join in, everybody, blah, blah. You can't. It's not that you can't because I say so. It's that if you read the book, it tells you that you can't. I'm not making this up. The reason why people don't know this is that churches are incentivized to expand bums on seats. And they have, over hundreds of years, just, it's okay, you can come in, and you can come in. You can't, because it's a contract with a specific group of people who are supposed to do a job. And that job requires adherence to these laws. And when that happens, the whole world benefits. I know this sounds awfully grandiose and all that kind of stuff, but that's, in my view, that's literally what it says. And it's not mystical and it's not mumbo jumbo. And I know people get transported in a spiritual way around it. Fantastic. I'm not, it's not down for me to say yay or nay on that. But the essence of it is that this is an engineering manual for a specific race of people to do something. And every word out of Christ's mouth backs that up. He doesn't, just like Patrick was saying, he's here to divide, right? It's got nothing to do with Jesus is hippy dippy Jesus and he loves everyone. People need to read this thing. Of course, churches. The church, we look at like that, the dickhead who's the head of Church of England who's just quit. He he takes the modern picture. Oh, we're all going to talk like this. Everybody's lovely. We're all in love with one another. Sorry, man. I don't know what you're doing. It's just a hobby.
Oh, it's a hobby, clapping, isn't it? Yes,
it's just clapping. Daft. And they've created an awful lot. They've created weak Western men because of it, who are sniggering around. Where you read it properly, this is a mighty book. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's like a spiritual combat manual. In many ways, that's exactly what it is. It's not easy, and it's not meant to be easy, which is why the law has been literally written in your heart and your mind, and only one particular race have had that law written in. Sorry if you don't like this, because this is racist, right? But that's what the book says. So
don't apologize for your opinion. I mean, it's that's what this is all about, isn't it?
It's freedom of opinion.
Well, yeah, but on top of that, Paul, I think one of the things that you're on about with this whole universalism thing, and that all ties into the New Age movement. right? So that's the whole love and light. Let's see if we can get everything inclusive, and we heard all this before, right? Let's make everything universal. Let's make it all nice and happy, and yeah, that's going to work, isn't it? So again, on that especially, I would agree with you. Not so much the rest, but again, I respect your opinion, mate, and I consider all company present very high quality. But this whole universalism thing, it's leading somewhere, isn't it? This is what we need to look at. What is it?
I'm going to recommend a book for everybody here, right? Or a booklet. You should better find it somewhere to download. It's very easy to remember. It's called Star Wars. I'm serious, right? Star Wars. Serious? And it came out in the mid-1980s, yeah? And you should be able to get it as a PDF somewhere by a chap called Nord, Nord, Davis Jr., Star Wars. And the stars it's referring to are the Star of Remphan, which you know as the Star of David, which is nothing to do with David at all, and the Star of the Israelites, which is a 5-pointed star in the right way round, okay? It's about the war between these two stars, between these stars that represent two races of people. The reason why it's such a vitally useful book is it's succinct, it's very easy to read. He's passed away, profoundly knowledgeable about, in my view, true scriptural knowledge, nails it, reads it as an engineering manual, can explain exactly what each word means. There's not many that you need to know. There's about 8 to 10 that cause all the confusion, and you'll be very, very clear. I would recommend anybody reading that first before they even jump in reading the Bible if they've not yet read it, because I'll tell you, everybody that generally reads it wrong. And that sounds cocky, but they read it wrong because they've got the wrong context for it. It's all about kissing and loving one another. No, it's not. It's about the law. And it's much more awesome than what people currently think it is, in my view. It's mind-blowing when you get to grips with what it really means. And it's a very direct message.
Again, people think that because I'm not a Christian and I do a lot of debunking and all that.
You are a Christian. You're going to find out what I'm going to tell you that you are. You can just rebut that, right, and throw it in the bin. Christians are a race of people. This is the whole thing. It's nothing to do with going to a bloody church. This is my take on it. It's got nothing to do with it, right? So it's like I've said before, the guy over the road is a builder. He's a Christian. He operates with every single ethic and moral decency that you would associate with the best and most robust qualities of being Christian. He's decent, he's civil, he helps you, he does things. That's what we're talking about. It's a type of people.
I'm none of those things, mate.
Yeah, you are. You're giving up your time to try and help people. You are. People don't recognize it. They go, oh no, we've got to look to a church or a human authority to tell me how to be. This is bab. It's nonsense. Working men that go down pits are the best Christians that ever bloody lived. It's guys that graft, that build things and do stuff. They're just amazing. And of course they go, oh no, we've got to go after some bloke who's got a rocket up his arse and went and studied, at some seminary for 6 years about this, that and the other, and bores you to tears with intellectual Christianity. They know bugger all. It's in people's hearts. You can see it in their faces, and when they laugh, that's what we're talking. That's the stuff that's going to pull us out of it. Not some nonce buggering about, twirling things around his neck. These guys make me puke. They really do. So, just to get my point across.
Barefoot Forager said those who refrain. I agree with you here, Barefoot Forager. Those who refrain from horrible behaviour are healed from addiction. Start helping others. Understand there is more to life than collecting more toys than the other kids. And I
life lesson in that one.
That's right. I mean, the more I find out about what annoys me is these charity sort of, look at me, I'm giving to charity. I'm such a nice person. Look, I'm giving money, No.
You wouldn't have to announce it if you were genuine, though, would you?
Precisely.
You wouldn't have to make a thing of it.
The genuine ones, like these people become very rich and anonymously. There was a woman, I think it was Oliver Reed. Now you look at him, most of the time he acted drunk. That was his act. He wasn't really drunk, although he was drunk quite a few times. But there was a woman near where he lived, a single parent who was about to lose her house, and she got a mortgage paid. but it was a mystery who paid it. And she asked him, and he just told her F off or something. He just walked away, and then it was him. And because he didn't want people to feel belittled, or and there's a way of giving, I think, where you don't show smugness, where it's a complete mystery. People think, oh, I wonder who the hell gave me that. That's the way. That's how a true person behaves. And this is why I can't stand charity. That's why I can't stand charity. I detest charity. And again, if you did away with usury, you probably wouldn't need charity. So,
and it's forbidden by script. It's forbidden. Usury is forbidden by God's laws.
Yes.
I'm just saying, why don't we just try them out for a bit? Because I bet the results would be spectacular. But of course, when you say that, people think, oh, you want me to start going to a church? No, I mean, you can't stop people if they're going to do that. But that's secondary. It's absolutely secondary. These law, in my view, right, these are these dynamic forces that are playing down upon us your entire life. And when they're organized in such a way that we are conforming to them, you wouldn't have usury. And you wouldn't have this kind of stuff, because we would be fully armored with the law, and we'd be so it would be so difficult for these liars and thieves to govern, because we've got the law burning in our hearts. That's what we've got to polish up. It's really simple stuff. There's only 10 commandments. It's bloody simple. And the reason why we don't do it is because we'd be out of a job, You wouldn't be able to talk about this stuff. And what do you do if it all gets solved? That's what I'm interested in. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to actually live with people that are not in debt and in a thriving place full of happy British families. That's really, but people get stuck on this. Oh, I can tell you some stuff. Well, I can tell you loads of stuff, and you can, and everybody knows loads of stuff. Great. Okay. Does it make any difference? No, it doesn't. It's not making any difference. Gentlemen, we've got to change our behaviour, and we've got to change it in line with the law.
And we've got to grow up as a... Sorry, Chris. What he just touched on, we've got to... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, right? What he said there, we've got to change our behaviour. That's the key, right? Because as a species, if we don't change our behaviour, then this... David Icke's got a saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got, kind of thing, right? So in other words, if you don't change, then you're going to keep making the same mess and the same mistakes, which ties into something that Sean Hamer said, which is great. The purpose of virtue is the prevention of regret, right? This species needs to grow up. It needs to mature, because otherwise it's going to fall off a cliff.
Okay. I would like to leave on two things. First thing, Eric, your microphone is a dynamic microphone. You should be speaking into it directly, because when you speak into it on the side, it's missing your voice.
So I've got to speak right like that.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Like that. Perfect. You get it in front of you, so it's facing you like that. That's the way it's made to be.
Right.
The second one is Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everyone has a blessed New Year, and
you too, Patrick.
Love one another. And be happy.
And I'd like to thank everybody, and saying Chris is not on here now, for an absolutely fantastic show tonight. It really has been a great show. And what I like is everybody's got great microphone discipline. Everybody's calm. Everybody's our discussion should be where people are learning things and possibly changing their views. This is what it should be. This is what I like. And I think that what it all boils down to is energy. And that is putting the right energy in. And I think the real problem in this world is people have got negative energy and not positive energy. And I think if we can put positive energy in via religion, or whatever way possible, that's the step in the right direction. I really do believe that. And I'd like to wish everybody a peaceful new year with full of happiness, and above all, lots of laughs. That's what we badly need. There's a shortage of laughs. So that's what I'd like to wish for everybody.
Do you know what I would like to wish
happiness. Yes.
Instead of peace and happiness, because that's the reward. I don't think that's I think I'm going to say that I wish them freedom, truth, and justice, because with that, the reward will come with it, and peace and prosperity will be the reward of that. So I'm going to say I wish everyone a free, truthful, and just New Year, and let's hope that it's better than the last one. Personally, I remain pessimistic, but there you go. But just before we sign off, thanks Patrick and Paul and Chris. It's been fantastic as always. Very good company, very good conversation, and everyone in chat's been absolutely fantastic. Again, so you come out with some fantastic stuff in there.
Thank you. That's right. Thank you, everyone in chat. Very polite, excellent. This is how it should be. This is what I've been aiming for years, and I'm really pleased. Thank you very much. I'm quite moved. Thank you. And anything, Paul, before we go?
Just adios 2024, I guess, although we've still got, 24 hours of it to go, something like that. Yeah. And here's to a remarkable 2025, and here's to us all being here at this time in 1 year, because apparently certain indicators would say that might not happen. So I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I just wish everybody good guidance and good protection from higher forces for the next year, because every little bit of help that we can get will be valued and will be required, I think. So keep your heart in the right place and keep fighting away, everyone. It's what we have to do. So, yeah.
And above all, before I press the outro, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh and good night. Thank you.